Chapter 368. Immerse's main purpose of saving the assassination team was naturally to sign in for the wormhole sniper rifle. Otherwise, why would he waste an opportunity to defend against any attack to save those 3 people? That was what he thought. After he became a desolate hunter, he would go to the ancient dragon battlefield. Those who could go to the ancient dragon battlefield were all above the level of a desolate hunter. If he had a wormhole sniper rifle, he wouldn't be able to easily kill his opponent from a few kilometers away without anyone noticing his location. Of course, now was not the time to sign in. Seeing that Immerse had blocked their sure-kill attack, the 4 level 9 desolate hunters turned to Immerse. They were shocked at first. However, when they felt Immerse's aura and realized that he was only a level 8 hunter, they were all furious. A mere level 8 hunter dared to stop them from killing the sniper. Although this level 8 hunter was very strange, they did not believe that this level 8 hunter could really fight against 4 level 9 desolate hunters. Thinking of this, the 4 of them were so angry that their eyes almost popped out. "Kid, you're courting death. I'll send you on your way." As they spoke, the energy weapons on their right arms once again condensed red light. It was also at this moment that Immerse had a thought. The ground of the entire city began to rumble and shake. And the shaking became more and more intense, several times stronger than an earthquake. The houses and buildings in the city collapsed one after another. "Oh no, there's an earthquake. Fly into the air. Retreat from the city." For a moment, whether it was the military or the bandits, they all shouted. At this moment, Kacha, a crack suddenly appeared on the ground. The crack was a kilometer long and more than 50 meters wide. The moment the crack opened, a figure instantly flew out. That figure appeared to be a human. However, he was skinny and had a pale face. He had a head of messy yellow hair. His eyes were sunken, and he was all skin and bones. Behind him was a long chain. Seeing this person appear, everyone was stunned. He came out from the ground. Could it be an almighty senior? Looking at his aura, I'm afraid he's far stronger than a level 8 desolate hunter. It could be a level 10 desolate hunter. Upon seeing this scene, the bandits and level 9 desolate hunters were also astonished. What the hell was this? Other than Immerse, there was only one other person who recognized him. Lu Shuming said in surprise, "Earth Fiend Puppet." Not only did he know about the Chasing Corpse Sec 72 Earth Baleful Puppets, he had even seen them once before. Therefore, he recognized it at a glance. While everyone was still in shock, the Earth Puppet leaped in front of Immerse with a single step. Then, he dragged the chain behind him over. Only then did everyone see that the chain behind him was connected to his neck. It was like a dog on a leash. But no one knew what was going on. How could such a terrifying existence be chained up? Who was the one who tied it up? Now that he was in front of Immerse, what did he want? From the looks of it, they didn't come with good intentions. All the bandits were shocked, but at the same time, they were secretly gloating. This terrifying existence seemed to be very unhappy with this kid. This kid was done for. At this moment, a scene that no one had expected occurred. After the terrifying existence that looked like a dead tree put away the chain, he suddenly knelt down on one knee in front of Immerse. Then, he lowered his head, held up one end of the chain in his hand with both hands, and handed it to Immerse. All the bandits, all the warriors, Lu Shuming, some of the people who were quick-witted instantly thought of a certain scene. What was the meaning of this? A marriage proposal? Immerse took the chain calmly. Then, he gently pinched the clasp on the terrifying existence's neck. Click, there was a soft sound. The chain fell to the ground. The terrifying existence immediately nodded gratefully at Immerse. Immerse stretched out his hand and pointed at the 4 level 9 desolate hunters. He said 3 words, "Big Yellow, bite." Upon receiving the order, the terrifying existence immediately turned around. With a leap, it instantly pounced on a level 9 desolate hunter. Seeing this, the level 9 desolate hunter was shocked. From the aura of this terrifying existence when it pounced, he felt that it was actually a level 10 Desolate Hunter. The level 9 Desolate Hunter hurriedly turned around and wanted to escape. However, under the pressure of the opponent's aura, the energy in his body couldn't circulate smoothly. His speed of escape suddenly slowed down a lot. He was directly pounced on by Big Yellow. Then, its right hand slashed across his dantian. The sharp nails of its right hand instantly pierced into the level 9 Desolate Hunter's dantian. No, the level 9 Desolate Hunter screamed. He immediately fell from the sky. Then, Big Yellow pounced 3 more times. The remaining 4 level 9 Desolate Hunters were pounced on and fell to the ground. Everyone who saw this scene was a little dumbfounded. For level 9 Desolate Hunters were pounced on one by this skinny guy. They didn't even have a chance to resist. What surprised them the most was that such a terrifying existence actually obeyed the orders of a mere level 8 Desolate Hunter. It was even ordered by the level 8 Desolate Hunter like a dog without a trace of complaint. What the hell was going on? Lu Shuming was also quite surprised. Immerse actually got his hands on the earth puppet from the corpse village. Moreover, he remembered that the earth puppet could only be controlled by the strongest person in the corpse village. Moreover, the steps to control it were very complicated. If one was not careful during the time of control, it could even cause a backlash to the control system. But looking at Immerse, he was completely treating the earth puppet like a dog. What Big Yellow biting? Only he could think of that. How did he do it? Moreover, Lu Shuming thought of a certain possibility. Since Immerse could control one earth puppet, did that mean he could control the other 71 earth puppets as well? If that was the case, Immerse would have 72 level 10 Desolate Hunters as his henchmen. One must know that even the Yuzhou military only had 50 level 10 Desolate Hunters. This brat was really unfathomable. At this time, the earth puppet had killed 4 level 9 Desolate Hunters in a row, but it didn't seem to be satisfied. Seeing this, Immerse smiled faintly and said, "All the level 5 and level 6 Desolate Hunters are yours." The earth puppet nodded repeatedly. It seemed to be grateful. Then it turned around again and attacked the level 5 and level 6 Desolate Hunters among the bandits. In just a few minutes, it was back in front of Immerse again. At this time, all the level 5 and level 6 Desolate Hunters among the bandits had become corpses. Immerse nodded. Well done. Your work is done. Let's go." The earth puppet nodded again, as if to express its gratitude and respect to Immerse. After retreating more than 10 meters, it jumped and dived back into the crevice. Chapter 369. The appearance of the earth puppet shattered everyone's worldview. Such a powerful existence was ordered around like a dog by Immerse, a mere level 8 scavenger. What kind of F*king logic was this? Immerse patted the rust on the chain on his hand and said to Lu Shuming, "I'm sorry, Commander Lu." Lu Shuming laughed and said, "Brother, you're really something. You can even get the earth puppet?" Immerse said with an ashamed look on his face. "Sigh, I'm ashamed. I've made a fool of myself." Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Earth puppet? I've always heard that the earth puppet of the corpse village is very powerful. I didn't expect to be lucky enough to see it today. He even got the earth puppet of the corpse village. He's not simple. Those soldiers came over to congratulate Immerse. Although the members of the 3 assassination teams didn't say anything, they remembered Immerse's life-saving grace in their hearts. It wasn't until now that Immerse had the time to say in his mind, "System, sign in for a special event." The system's voice quickly replied, "Frowny face, sign in successful. Sign in event, protect the military assassination team, sign in reward, 1 wormhole sniper rifle." Immerse took a look in his backpack. This sniper rifle looked similar to the one in the hands of the sniper. It was just that there were some improvements in various aspects such as performance. The sniper's sniper rifle was only experimental. Its maximum attack range was only 10 kilometers. However, Immerse's sniper rifle had a maximum attack range of 1,000 kilometers. As long as there was a mark on the target, even if the target escaped 999 kilometers away, Immerse could use the wormhole technology to instantly make the bullet cross the distance of 999 kilometers and hit the target. However, when he took a closer look at the wormhole sniper rifle, he was a little speechless. System, where are the bullets? The system's voice quickly sounded. Frowny face. Bullets need to be obtained by signing in. F***CK. Immerse felt like he had been F***ked. There was no point in playing with a gun without bullets. However, bullets should be easier to obtain. As long as he returned to the military base and signed in next to the ammunition depot, he would be able to sign in and come out. At this moment, Lu Shuming was secretly glad that Immerse had taken care of the enemy's high-level combatants. Originally, they had brought Immerse out to broaden his horizons, but they did not expect that Immerse would be the one to broaden their horizons. Fortunately, he had brought Immerse with him. Otherwise, he would have suffered heavy losses today. Thinking of this, he quickly contacted the commander. "Sir, there's no need to send reinforcements. Immerse has already taken care of the enemy's high-end combat power." Hearing this, Commander Chi was slightly surprised. "Immerse?" Lu Shuming nodded. "Yes." Commander Chi was still a little surprised. However, he also knew that it was not convenient for him to say too much at this time. He only nodded and said, "If that's the case, it's time to record Immerse's achievement." Lu Shuming nodded. "Yes." When Immerse heard this, he did not take it to heart. What he cared about was not whether or not he would be rewarded. What he wanted was the actual benefits. However, the military could not give him too many actual benefits. After all, he had signed in for most of the things that the military could give him in the past month. After Immerse had taken care of the enemy's high-end combat power, the rest was simple. The military completely crushed the enemy and ended the battle in just half an hour. Then, it was time to clean up the scene. After cleaning up the scene, the military rested for a while in Nanyang City. During the break, a few soldiers joked. "Old Nyo, didn't you say that you wanted to fight gang leader Mo one-on-one? We're free now." The soldier who spoke made a "please" gesture. The rest of the people cheered. "Old Nyo, go and fight one-on-one. I have high hopes for you. Old Nyo, you were very unconvinced before. Why should a mere hunter be valued so highly by the commander? Now, your chance is here." The soldier called Old Nyo looked ashamed when he heard this. He laughed and scolded, "You guys are sending me to my death. It's my bad luck to have comrades like you guys." Everyone laughed out loud. Old Nyo is scared. Old Nyo, a man who isn't even scared of the division commander and the commander, is actually scared today. This is the first time a girl has been scared. Old Nyo, it's my lifelong wish to see you admit defeat in this lifetime. I didn't expect it to happen so soon. Since Old Nyo had already lost his face, he might as well go all out. He straightened his neck and said, "Yes, he's scared." "Why? Not convinced?" "If you're not convinced, you can also be scared." Everyone laughed again. As they spoke, a group of people from Nanyang City walked over. They all expressed their gratitude to the military. Lu Shuming shook his head and said, "This is what we should do." After the pleasantries, a representative of the people pointed at the huge crack on the ground that was 1,000 meters long and asked, "Commander, that guy won't come out again, right?" As he spoke, he looked at Immerse with lingering fear. Lu Shuming didn't know about this either. He turned to look at Immerse. Immerse nodded. Yes, he won't. Only then did the commoners relax. After resting for 2 hours, the team rushed to the next bandit stronghold. In the next 2 days, the army eliminated 3 more groups of bandits. In total, they killed more than 1,000 bandits. This was already the first time he had killed so many bandits in the history of the battle. When the remaining bandits received the news, they all retreated into the wilderness. This bandit suppression operation could be said to be the most successful in history. However, in Lu Shuming's opinion, it was still not considered a success. In fact, it was a failure. This was because they had mobilized the most people this time. Their goal was to catch all the bandits in one fell swoop. However, they didn't expect these bandits to be so cunning. They immediately retreated into the wilderness at the slightest sign of trouble. After this wave of bandit suppression was over, they would come out again to cause trouble. A division commander beside Lu Shuming asked, "Commander, what should we do now?" Lu Shuming pondered for a moment and said, "Since we came out once, we must think of a way to catch all of them in one fell swoop. However, these bandits have entered the wilderness now. No one is more familiar with the wilderness than they are. If we continue to chase after them, the number of casualties will increase greatly." When the division commander heard this, he said, "Commander, we can actually send Phantom to investigate and figure out the situation in the wilderness. Then, we can decide on a battle plan and catch all of them in one fell swoop." Lu Shuming pondered for a moment again and called a few other higher-ups over. He asked for their opinions. In the end, everyone agreed to the division commander's suggestion. Lu Shuming immediately called Phantom over. Chapter 370. Soon, Ghastly Shadow arrived. Ever since Immerse entered the military base, he had been hearing people talking about Ghastly Shadow. Today, he finally saw him in person. In Immerse's imagination, Ghastly Shadow should be a thin and small person dressed in black, looking like a ghost. However, to his surprise, Ghastly Shadow was not thin and small. Instead, he was a muscular man who was 1.8 meters tall. His face was full of whiskers. Big and rough, carefree. It formed a strong contrast with his name. According to Lu Shuming, Ghastly Shadow was an extremely special existence. After he became a desolate hunter, he awakened 2 innate skills. This was the only one in history. His 2 innate skills, one was teleportation, the other was invisibility. Every time he teleported, he could teleport more than 50 kilometers away. It was faster than any aircraft. And the trapping skill allowed him to avoid most equipment and psychokinesis detection. Therefore, the military specially recruited him to carry out all kinds of reconnaissance missions. Normally, he lived among the ordinary warriors, and he looked no different from an ordinary warrior. When he was needed, he would transform into a Ghastly Shadow to carry out all kinds of difficult reconnaissance missions. After receiving the order, Ghastly Shadow chuckled and said, "It's finally my turn." The division commander said seriously, "Ghastly Shadow, this is the army, be serious." Ghastly Shadow chuckled, gave the division commander and Lu Shuming a very casual military salute, and said, "Yes, that, I promise to complete the mission." He looked at the division commander and Lu Shuming, especially at Immerse. There was a hint of provocation in his eyes. Then, he disappeared in an instant. Immerse understood what he meant. When Immerse saved the 3 assassination team members, he used some kind of teleportation skill. As the saying goes, people of the same trade are enemies. Ghastly Shadow was most proud of his invisibility and teleportation ability. Now that he saw that Immerse could teleport, he was naturally dissatisfied. Lu Shuming naturally saw Ghastly Shadow's provocative eyes. After he left, he said to Immerse, "Don't bother with him. He's just like that. He doesn't have any bad intentions." Immerse didn't care about this. He shrugged and said, "Don't worry, Commander Lu. I'm a gang leader after all. If you don't even have this bit of magnanimity, how can you convince the masses?" His words dispelled the slightly awkward atmosphere from before. In Immerse's heart, he did not take that ghost shadow seriously at all. It was like an amateur player challenging a professional player. If a pro player even glanced at you, it would be considered a loss. The group rested in a small city on the edge of the wilderness. 2 days later, Spirit Shadow suddenly appeared in front of everyone. When everyone saw the ghost shadow appear, they were all overjoyed. I'm back, I'm back. I've heard that the wilderness is huge, covering an area of more than 100,000 square kilometers. Ghost Shadow completed his investigation in just 2 days, which is really surprising. Nonsense, why else would it be called Ghost Shadow? Guiying naturally heard the discussions of the crowd. Naturally, he was very happy in his heart. He reported to Commander Lu. Commander, I've already scouted all the strongholds of the bandits in the wilderness. I've also drawn all the topographic maps in the wilderness into 3-dimensional maps. As he spoke, he turned on his multifunctional watch. A 3-dimensional map was immediately projected on the multifunctional watch. As expected, the map was very detailed. Not only were all the topographic maps very clear, but the locations of the strongholds, the number of people in the strongholds, and the strength of the strongest person were also clearly marked. Commander Lu nodded. Well, you've worked hard. Go and rest first. Hee, okay. Guiying chuckled and turned to leave. However, when he passed by Immerse, he once again showed a provocative look. He even raised his chin at Immerse. The hearts of the surrounding people tightened slightly as they looked at Immerse. However, they saw that Immerse still acted as if he didn't see it. This made Guiying even more unhappy. He directly said, "You can teleport too. Want to compete?" Immerse smiled and said, "No." Guiying saw that Immerse didn't dare to accept the challenge. As if he had won, he raised his head and left with satisfaction. Lu Shuming looked at Immerse. He saw that Immerse still didn't have a trace of anger. He secretly nodded in his heart. In the face of the other party's many challenges, he wasn't angry at all, but he wasn't afraid at all. He had a firm grasp of the situation. Next, the military formulated a detailed battle plan according to the map that Guiying had scouted. That evening, they set off into the wilderness. In the middle of the night, they had already uprooted the first stronghold. At dawn, they had already uprooted 2 strongholds. Then, they directly repaired them locally. In the next 2 nights, they uprooted 5 strongholds in a row. These bandits would hide in the wilderness every time they encountered a bandit suppression in the past. The military didn't know much about the wilderness, so they wouldn't enter at all. Therefore, they didn't set up any defenses around the strongholds, which was why so many strongholds were easily uprooted. Moreover, in the wilderness, there weren't as many people as in the city. In addition, the military acted at night. Before uprooting the strongholds, they used signal blocking devices. The signals within dozens of kilometers were blocked. Therefore, after the bandits in a stronghold were attacked, they couldn't contact other strongholds at all. That was why so many strongholds were uprooted in a row. At the same time, with so many strongholds uprooted, Guiying also became more and more arrogant. In his opinion, the reason why the military could be so successful was because of him. Soon, there were only 3 strongholds left. At this time, the bandits in these 3 strongholds had already realized that something was wrong. For 3 consecutive days, they couldn't contact other strongholds. At first, they thought that the signal in the wilderness was bad. After all, such a situation often happened in the past. However, not even a trace of signal in 3 days was something that had never happened before. They finally realized that something was wrong. Therefore, the 3 strongholds gathered. The total number of people reached more than 2,000. The bandit leader was a handsome young man named Shirmushwan. Not only did he have a handsome face, but he also had a scholarly aura. No one would associate him with the bandit leader. However, such a person was a bandit leader who burned, killed, robbed, committed all kinds of crimes, and killed people like scything flax. He stood on a huge rock and looked at the 2,000 bandits below. Just now, someone had reported that they had sent people to other strongholds. However, none of the people sent had returned. "Boss, what do we do at 2:00? "Boss, we have no way out." "Fight them." The surrounding bandits were all very agitated. Some were frightened, some were worried, and some were excited. The bandit leader Shirmushwan looked at the sky in the distance. A mass of dark clouds had already floated up from there. After a moment, he sighed for no reason. The rainy season is coming. Chapter 371. Shirmashwan, the leader of the bandits, did not think of any countermeasures in the face of a great enemy. Instead, he looked at the dark clouds that had just appeared in the distant sky. He sighed slowly. The rainy season is here. A bandit next to him asked doubtfully, "Boss, do you mean?" Shirmashwan continued with a sigh, "It's the season to spit again." The bandit next to him was speechless. Shirmashwan looked at it for a moment and said, "Let's move." The bandit next to him said doubtfully, "But boss, all our strongholds have been destroyed except for this one. Where can we move these 2,000 people?" Shirmashwan said, "The Thousand Leaves Valley." The bandit's expression changed immediately. "Boss," Shirmashwan looked away from the dark clouds in the sky and looked at the bandit. The bandit hurriedly took back his words halfway through his sentence. He lowered his head and said, "Yes, boss." Then he turned his head and looked at the bandits below. He said, "Move to the Thousand Leaves Valley." Upon hearing this, the expressions of the bandits all changed. They did not seem to believe that their boss would say such a thing. Everyone looked at the bandit leader, Shirmashwan, as if to verify the authenticity of his words. Shirmashwan looked at all the bandits and only said one sentence, "Follow me if you don't want to die." As he spoke, he leaped onto the giant rock and went into the depths of the forest. Although the rest of the bandits were terrified, they did not dare to disobey their boss since he had already spoken. They could only follow him quickly. Immerse followed the bandit suppression army to the last stronghold. However, he found that it was already empty. Everyone searched around, but they couldn't find a single bandit. "Sir, it seems that they have escaped," a division commander said. Lu Shuming frowned slightly. Their last 3 strongholds combined into one. There are about 2,000 people. And these 2,000 people are the main fighting force of the bandits. If we don't eliminate them, they will immediately recover once we leave. A division commander said, "Sir, why don't we send Phantom to investigate again and find their location before we go and eliminate them?" Lu Shuming pondered for a moment and nodded. "All right." Then, he summoned Ghostly Shadow once again. After assigning the mission, he reminded them. Their bandit leader, Shirmashwan, isn't easy to deal with. After you've investigated the situation, don't act blindly without thinking. Come back and report immediately. Guaying nodded, "Understood, Sir Commander." "Leave it to me." "No problem." Then, he glanced at Immerse. But this time, the provocation was much less obvious. From his point of view, Immerse had already admitted defeat in front of him last time. Therefore, there was no longer any value in provoking him. In the next moment, his figure disappeared. This time, it only took him 2 hours to return to the camp. He reported the situation to Commander Lu Shuming. They fled into a valley in the depths of the wilderness. Then, a 3-dimensional map of the valley was displayed. Commander Lu Shuming called a few division commanders over for a discussion. From the map, the terrain of this valley was not complicated. In the valley, there was nothing special except for a small river that was only 2 meters wide. If one had to point out something special, it would be the strange rocks on both sides of the valley. These rocks were basically spherical. It looked as if someone had specially pasted these hemispherical rocks on the stone walls on both sides of the valley thousands of years ago. However, these hemispherical rocks had been severely weathered and did not seem to be dangerous. After a discussion, a group of high-ranking military officials decided to continue the pursuit. So, everyone continued the pursuit. Not long after, it started to drizzle. The rain would affect the performance of the hoverboard shoes, so the military chose to walk. And Guaying had already gone to investigate again. Whether those bandits left the valley or found a place to hide in the valley, Guaying would know clearly. When the military arrived, they could directly formulate a battle plan based on Guaying's investigation. Therefore, they did not need to rush. So, everyone put away their hoverboard shoes and switched to walking. After another 2 hours, when they reached the entrance of the valley, the rain was getting heavier. Lu Shuming asked, "Is there a possibility of a flash flood here?" An expert next to him replied, "It hasn't rained yet. It just rained not long ago, so the possibility of a flash flood is very low. According to the map, there are no traces of a flash flood here before. Moreover, the bottom of the valley is hundreds of meters wide. Even if a flash flood really happens, the impact will not be great. And we still have the hoverboard shoes." Hearing this, Lu Shuming nodded. At this moment, Guiying had also returned. He opened the map, pointed to a crack in the valley, and said, "All the bandits have entered this crack." Lu Shuming gathered everyone again. After a short discussion, they formulated a battle plan. Lu Shuming reminded everyone, these 2,000 people have always been the main force of the bandits. Among them, there are more than 10 level 5 desolate hunters. There are 2 level 8 desolate hunters. And we can't rule out the possibility of them using the potion that increases their strength. So, everyone must be mentally prepared. Yes. Yes. Everyone responded. Lu Shuming turned to Immerse and said, "Brother, if another level 9 desolate hunter appears later, I'm afraid your earth puppet will have to fight." Immerse nodded. "No problem." Lu Shuming said, "They must have hidden sentries. Guiying, investigate their hidden sentries. Once you find them, assassinate them." Guiying chuckled and said, "It's fine." As he spoke, his figure flashed and disappeared. Immerse detected that when Guiying appeared, he was already behind a hidden sentry 5 kilometers away. His left hand covered the hidden sentry's mouth, and the genetic weapon on his right arm moved slightly, piercing into that person's body. At this moment, that person was unable to resist at all. Then, he flashed again, and a moment later, another hidden sentry was eliminated. In a short 5 minutes, more than 10 hidden sentries were eliminated. Although Immerse did not like this person's personality, he had to admit that he was quite good at assassinating people. Eliminating these hidden sentries was done cleanly without any sloppiness. After eliminating all the hidden sentries, the military began to move towards the center of the valley. At this moment, the rain was getting heavier. The river water had already reached the riverbank. However, no one cared. After all, the riverbank was a few hundred meters wide. Even if the river water was tens of times bigger, it would not affect them at all. After half an hour, they had reached the center of the valley. At this moment, the river water was getting bigger. The river water was a few meters wider. The murky river water was even murkier than the yellow river that Immerse had seen in his previous life. Chapter 372. The muddy river water was even more muddy than the yellow river that Immerse had seen in his previous life. However, no one cared. From their current position, they could see a huge crack on the stone wall on the left side of the valley. It was about 50 meters high. The crack was more than 5 meters wide and more than 30 meters high. According to the previous battle plan, they would first use a miniature drone to investigate. After determining the enemy's position, they would first attack with a flash bomb. After blinding these people, the soldiers would then charge in. At this moment, the keyboard player was controlling the miniature drone and flying into the cave. The miniature drone was only the size of a mosquito. There were no weapons on it, only 4 miniature pinhole cameras. It could capture the surrounding situation 360 degrees without any corners. Soon, the miniature drone had already flown into the cave. Soon, more than 20 bandits were found. The miniature drone continued to fly inside. The cave inside was very big. The inside of the big cave was like a huge square. Moreover, there were many holes of various sizes on the stone wall inside the cave. No one knew where these holes led to. Seeing this, Lu Shuming's brows were already furrowed. Once they rushed in, these bandits would only need to crawl into these holes, and it would be very difficult for them to catch them all in one go. After Immerse understood the situation, he already had an idea in his mind. He asked Lu Shuming, when the assassination team's sniper rifle determines the coordinates, can they also manually determine the coordinates? Lu Shuming nodded. The wormhole sniper rifle has two ways to determine the coordinates. The first is automatic marking. As long as the target is covered by the scope, the target will be automatically marked. The second is manual guidance. Let the teammates use the guidance device that comes with the wormhole sniper rifle to determine a mark on the target. This way, even if the sniper has no vision, he can still kill the target. Immerse nodded. That's easy. We can let Phantom teleport in, mark the bandit leader, and assassinate him. Then, we can use the same method to assassinate their higher-ups one by one. In this way, the bandits will either choose to surrender in panic or be killed by the sniper one by one. Lu Shuming nodded. Well, that's a good idea. Let's get Phantom here. Very quickly, Spirit Shadow was called out. However, when he heard Immerse's plan, he immediately exploded. You're sending me to my death. Every time I teleport, there's a cooldown of at least 3 seconds. How do you think I'm going to dodge the attacks of those bandits around me in these 3 seconds? Chief, I don't think this guy has any good intentions. Or maybe he's jealous of my ability and wants me to die. Hearing this, Lu Shuming shook his head and said, Immerse is not that kind of person. Immerse shook his head helplessly. So you can't do it. It seems that I have overestimated you. The ghostly figure glared at Immerse. You want to provoke me? I won't fall for it. You can do it. If you can really do it, I will kowtow to you on the spot. When Immerse heard this, he didn't do anything about it. He said to the sniper next to him, Give me the homing device. Hearing this, the sniper asked, Brother Mo, you want to go in? This is too dangerous. Immerse said, Just give it to me. The sniper's life was saved by Immerse, so he was thinking for Immerse. Seeing that Immerse was determined to go in, he couldn't stop him. He looked at Lu Shuming next to him. Lu Shuming asked Immerse, Are you confident? Immerse smiled and said, Not very confident, 90%. Lu Shuming was speechless. Everyone around was also speechless. The ghostly figure sneered, Tisk, 90%. Why don't you brag that it's 100%? Do you really think? Immerse ignored him and said to Lu Shuming, Commander Lu, pull out the cold explosive immediately. Then, he said to the sniper next to him, Open the connector of the sniper rifle. After dropping the bomb, I will go in immediately. Seeing that Immerse was so determined, Lu Shuming didn't say anything else. Soon, he ordered someone to drop the bomb. The flash bomb had 2 functions. One type of grenade had a very strong lethality, and its lethality and lethality radius were much greater than that of an ordinary grenade. The other was a flash effect. When it exploded, it would form a strong light that could temporarily blind the enemy. Soon, more than 50 soldiers jumped to the entrance of the cave. They took out their flash bombs and threw them into the cave. However, just as the flash bombs were thrown into the cave, dozens of energy blasted out. Boom, 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 all the crossfire bombs exploded not long after they left the hands of the soldiers. These soldiers were immediately sent flying backward. They fell to the ground. Fortunately, every bombardier had a special protective gear. Although they were slightly injured, they wouldn't be killed by the flash bombs they threw. Several division commanders shook their heads. It seems that they were prepared. The ghostly figure next to him made a tisk sound again. You don't take your own life, but don't you take the lives of your comrades as well? Immerse ignored him and said to the sniper next to him, Get ready to shoot. Seeing this, Lu Shuming quickly stopped him. There are no flash bombs. It's too dangerous for you to go in like this. However, before he could finish speaking, Immerse's figure had already disappeared. Seeing this, Lu Shuming and the others quickly looked at the screen in front of the keyboard player. On the screen, they saw Immerse's figure appear in the cave in an instant. The homing device in his hand was aimed at a high-ranking bandit. The sniper's reaction was also very fast. After the guide made a mark on the head of the high-ranking bandit, the cross in the scope of the sniper rifle suddenly turned red. Seeing this, the sniper quickly pulled the trigger. Bang! A loud sound was heard. After the bullet flew 5 meters out of the muzzle, it quickly turned into a blue and white outline and then disappeared. The next moment, on the screen, the head of the bandit exploded instantly. Blood splattered everywhere. The faces and bodies of the surrounding bandits were covered in blood. At this time, Immerse had already aimed the homing device at another bandit. Bang! Another loud sound was heard. The head of the bandit leader also exploded in an instant. It was not until now that the bandits finally reacted. Kill him! Someone roared. At the same time, several beams of energy were already attacking Immerse. Immerse's figure flashed, but he had already disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already behind the stone wall on the other side. The homing device was again aimed at another bandit. On the homing device, an invisible beam of light shot out and marked the body of a bandit. At the same time, Immerse's figure flashed again and he disappeared. Just as he disappeared, several bursts of energy were already heading towards him. At the same time, bang, the head of the bandit had already exploded. This scene caused everyone present to be dumbfounded. And the ghostly figure next to Immerse, who was extremely dissatisfied with him, also had a blank expression at this time. Could teleportation be done like this? Didn't it need a cooldown? Chapter 373. Immerse kept flashing in the cave. Every time he flashed, a high-ranking bandit would die. In fact, he had also tried to mark the bandit leader, Shirmushwan. However, Shirmushwan was very cunning. When he tried to mark Shirmushwan would always dodge at the fastest speed. After all, Shirmushwan was a level 8 desolate hunter. His speed was also very fast. Immerse did not persist. He would mark the bandit leader who was the closest and most convenient to him. This caused all the bandits in the cave to look extremely terrified. After all, no one knew if they would be the next one. Everyone outside the cave was very surprised. As far as they knew, although some people could teleport, teleportation required energy. Not to mention other things, just using the wormhole teleportation technology consumed a lot of energy. Otherwise, the wormhole teleportation device would not be so precious. But now, Immerse only stopped for a second every time he teleported. It was as if he could teleport infinitely. This kind of teleportation ability was simply too heaven-defying. As for Spirit Shadow, he was in a daze. He could not come back to his senses for a long time. As a desolate hunter with the talent of teleportation, he understood teleportation the best. He was the only one who knew how much energy and physical strength it took to teleport. He clearly knew that teleportation was really a physical activity. If he only had energy and did not have physical strength, he would not be able to do it. But now, Immerse was teleporting as if he was just playing. In his opinion, this was truly inconceivable. At least, he would never be able to reach this level in his lifetime. At the same time, he recalled that he had provoked Immerse several times before. Immerse did not respond. At that time, he had thought that Immerse was scared. Only now did he realize that Immerse was not a coward. It was because he did not care to be calculative with him. When he thought of this, he only felt a kind of feeling called shame floating in his heart. Outside the cave. Bang, 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 the loud sounds of sniper rifles could be heard continuously. Inside the cave. Bang, 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 the muffled sounds of heads exploding could be heard continuously. All the bandits were terrified. Seeing this, the bandit leader Shirmushwan immediately gave the order. Kill him. Hearing their boss's order, the group of bandits finally came to their senses. They all condensed their genetic weapons and pounced toward Immerse. However, Immerse's teleportation speed was extremely fast. Moreover, it was erratic and hard to grasp. No one could get close to Immerse. Seeing this, the group of bandits were surprised, but they also became ferocious. One after another, they condensed their energy weapons and bombarded Immerse. Immerse's figure flickered, appearing at the top of the cave in an instant. A cold smile appeared on Zhang Xian's face. Shua, something spilled out of his backpack. In the next moment, Immerse's figure disappeared. When the bandits in the cave saw the things that Immerse had sprinkled down, they all felt their scalps go numb. Those things turned out to be all flash bombs. There were hundreds of them. Boom 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 boom, these hundreds of grenades directly exploded in the cave. The light of the fire filled the entire huge cave. The shockwave slammed all the people below level 5 desolate hunters hard against the wall, over and over again. At this time, Immerse had already teleported out of the cave. Everyone saw the scene in the cave through the screen, and all of them widened their eyes. After a while, someone patted Immerse on the shoulder. "Brother, you're really something. Amazing. With an assaulter like you, wouldn't it be great to fight a battle?" The ghost looked at Immerse and then at himself. Once again, he was too ashamed to show his face. The serious expression on Lu Shuming's face also lessened a little. At this time, in the cave, corpses were strewn everywhere. Broken limbs and mutilated bodies. It was a mess. Just a few hundred flash bombs had directly eliminated 80% of the bandits. This was simply impossible in the past. After all, bandits who had reached the level of desolate hunters could use energy to detonate flash bombs in advance. Flash bombs could not cause any substantial damage to them at all. But this time, because the flash bombs came so quickly and directly, it was like a rain of bullets falling from the sky. They were completely defenseless. The bandit leader Shirmushwan's eyes were also temporarily blinded by the flashes. He roared, "Everyone, retreat into the surrounding passageways." After that, he touched the stone wall on the right and fled into the depths of the passageway. The remaining 400 or so bandits who could still move also touched the stone wall and fled into the surrounding small caves. Outside the cave, Lu Shuming saw this and was about to order everyone to kill their way into the cave and eliminate the bandits. But at this moment, in the direction of the river in front of them, there was a sudden rumbling sound. Rumble, rumble, it sounded like thousands of horses galloping. The psychic grandmaster in the army scanned with his psychic power, and his expression changed slightly. He said to Lu Shuming, "Chief, the cave has exploded. Quick, let the soldiers activate their flying skateboards and fly to the mountains on both sides." Lu Shuming glanced at the huge crack not far away and asked, "Can it flood that far?" The psychic grandmaster nodded. Yes. Everyone's expression changed when they heard this. Such a small river could erupt with a flood that was hundreds of meters high. This was really too strange. But at this moment, there was no time to dwell on it. Lu Shuming immediately ordered, "Everyone, retreat to the mountains on both sides." At this time, the rain was getting heavier, and the performance of the flying skateboards was far worse than usual. Their speed was greatly reduced, and their flying stability was also greatly reduced. If they did not avoid it in advance, they might be washed away by the mountain flood. With the strength of these soldiers, a mere mountain flood could not kill them at all. But after all, it was not a good thing, so they should avoid it as much as possible. So these 2,000 soldiers activated their flying skateboards and flew shakily to the mountains on both sides. Just less than 2 minutes after everyone had retreated to the mountains. Rumble, rumble, everyone could already see the wave. A wave that was more than 100 meters high. That desolate hunter was not exaggerating at all. The wave that was more than 100 meters high rumbled through the valley like a tsunami. It was like a berserk beast, swallowing everything in the cave. Crack, crack, all the trees were broken under the mountain flood. Even the rocks that rolled down from the valley were being pushed forward by the force of the impact. The group of soldiers could be considered as people who had seen big scenes before. But at this time, when they saw the mountain flood, they were all secretly shocked. No one had seen such a violent mountain flood. Soon, the mountain flood flooded the huge crack from before. Shirmoshwan was secretly glad that he did not send the soldiers in just now. Otherwise, this battle would have been very difficult for him. However, his rejoicing did not last long. Soon, his expression changed. Because the rocks on both sides of the valley moved. Chapter 374. The soldiers stepped on their flying skateboards and flew to the mountains on both sides of the valley to avoid the flood. But at this moment, the psychic grandmaster in the army felt that something was wrong. He suddenly turned his head and looked at a mountain rock. He saw a huge rock mountain with a diameter of more than 10 meters. When it was half submerged by the flood, it suddenly began to move. Its surface kept trembling and slowly moved to the sides. Then, a pair of wings stretched out from inside. The pair of wings grew with the wind and soon reached a width of more than 20 meters. On the wings, there were 2 pairs of sharp claws. The next moment, it flapped its wings and flew into the air. Only then did everyone realize that it was not a rock. It was a desolate beast that had been sticking to the stone wall. And there were tens of thousands of such rocks on the stone walls on both sides of the valley. Previously, they only thought that the stone walls of the valley were strange. Now, everyone realized that there were tens of thousands of desolate beasts. These desolate beasts had been in a dormant state before. And after countless years, their internal organs seemed to have been petrified. Therefore, even a telekinesis grandmaster could not detect their existence. Now that they had absorbed the flood, their bodies slowly recovered. Everyone in the army had never heard of such a strange desolate beast. Immerse was also very surprised. How could there be such a desolate beast? At this moment, on the stone walls on both sides of the valley, the tens of thousands of stone walls seemed to have just woken up and were stretching. They spread their wings and shook quickly. The next moment, these desolate beasts revealed their ferocious faces. The head of each desolate beast was wrapped by 4 sharp fangs. The head inside the fangs was like a mantis, with an inverted triangular shape. On this inverted triangular head, there were 2 tentacles that were more than a meter long. At the tip of each tentacle, there was an eye. The tentacles could extend out of the fangs and observe the surrounding movements. Every one of them was a level 1 mutated desolate beast. There were definitely no less than 50,000 level 1 mutated desolate beasts here. And this was only what could be seen so far. In the river that could not be seen up and down, no one knew how many more of these mutated desolate beasts there were. At this moment, the keyboard player said, "Found it, 7-star ladle mantis." Everyone was confused when they heard this. What kind of name is that? I've never heard of it. The keyboard player stared at the virtual screen and kept talking. The 7-star ladle mantis is a desolate beast from 10,000 years ago. When there was a lack of water, they would go into hibernation. After hibernating for 10,000 years, when there was enough water, it would not awaken again. It's the same as the ancient virus hidden in the glaciers. Lu Shuming asked, "Characteristics?" The keyboard player said, "Since these 7-star ladle mantises came from ancient times, they carry ancient viruses. No one knew what kind of changes the virus would undergo after encountering the current environment. So be careful." At this point, the keyboard player raised his head to look at Lu Shuming, and his voice became softer and softer. This was because the little information that was found in the database was completely useless. The 7-star ladle mantis had only appeared 5 times in the history of the Flaming Dawn continent. Therefore, there was very little research on these desolate beasts. Naturally, there was very little information in the database. Rain continued to flow down Lu Shuming's chiseled face. With a serious expression, he said, "Don't act rashly for now." Towards any desolate beast that he did not understand, one must never turn around and flee. This was because 90% of desolate beasts would subconsciously chase after living creatures when they encountered them fleeing. On the other hand, if you did not flee, they would reconsider. Sometimes, they would even turn around and leave. However, the one they encountered this time belonged to the latter category. The first 7-star ladle mantis that woke up extended its eyes out of its 4 fangs and looked around. Soon, it locked onto the warriors on the mountain top. Squeak, 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 its 4 fangs kept trembling, and it let out a sharp, ear-piercing cry. Then, it flapped its wings and flew towards the mountain top. Seeing this, Lu Shuming frowned. With his experience, if he killed this 7-star ladle mantis now, it would definitely trigger the other 7-star ladle mantis's ferocity. Then, they would definitely not be able to escape death. And if he did not kill this 7-star ladle mantis, he would have to watch it kill a few warriors. With his military blood, he naturally could not do that. At this point, he did not have the luxury of hesitation. He ordered, "Destroy it." A soldier at the side immediately activated his genetic martial art and jumped behind the 7-star ladle mantis. The genetic martial art ruthlessly pierced into the 7-star ladle mantis's body. Pooh! Fresh blood spurted out. Along with the heavy rain, blood splattered everywhere. It was also at this moment that the other 7-star ladle mantises seemed to have sensed the death of their comrades. Their wings trembled violently, and their mouths let out high-frequency cries. Zhi 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 zhi. Then, these tens of thousands of 7-star ladle mantises all flapped their wings and flew towards the warriors. Looking down from the sky, the 7-star ladle mantises in the entire valley were like a blood-red tide, surrounding the warriors. The performance of the flying skateboards on these warriors' feet was greatly reduced in the rain, and their flying speed was also greatly reduced. With such a speed, it was impossible for them to escape. Fortunately, there was a dense forest on the mountain top below. Lu Shuming's expression changed, and he immediately ordered, "Everyone, land and enter the forest." The warriors quickly landed and hid in the surrounding forest. However, when the warriors entered the forest, the surrounding blood-red tide also flooded towards the forest. Wherever they passed, trees that would require 2 to 3 people to hug were turned into powder in an extremely short period of time. It seemed that the entire forest would be engulfed in a few minutes. Moreover, above the valley in the distance, there were more and more 7-star ladle mantises flying towards them. A thought flashed through Lu Shuming's mind. It's over. Although as a soldier, as one of the more than 2,000 people, he should not have such a thought in his mind. However, his rationality told him that it was over. Even if they encountered a normal beast tide, the more than 2,000 of them would not be able to withstand it. Moreover, these were 7-star ladle mantises, which were equivalent to level 1 mutated wild beasts. Even if they could kill 10,000 or 20,000 beasts with only 2,000 people, could they kill 50,000 beasts? What about 100,000? Even so, he could not show the slightest bit of despair. His eyes flashed like lightning. He shouted, "Everyone, listen up. Take out your genetic weapons and kill these sons of B***cheese for me." All the soldiers had already condensed their genetic weapons and were waiting for Lu Shuming's order. Now that they received the order, all the soldiers let out beast-like roars from their throats. Kill, die, F***CKU. Chapter 375. Under Lu Shuming's command, the soldiers fought with all their might. Puff, 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 the bodies of the 7-star ladle mantises were pierced one by one. Boom, 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 explosive grenades exploded one after another. Swish, 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 blood splattered everywhere. Squeak, 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 a series of cries of agony could be heard. In just a few moments, the surrounding mountains were dyed red with blood. However, there were too many 7-star ladle mantises. They were like red clouds that covered the sky. The energy and stamina of the soldiers were limited. If this continued, the soldiers would be wiped out in at most 20 minutes. Lu Shuming looked at this scene and felt a little regretful. Although he was going to die, it was not a pity. It was a pity for these 2,000 soldiers. He was the one who led them closer to death. He was a sinner. He sighed in his heart and contacted the commander. After taking a deep breath, his voice returned to normal. "Commander, we encountered a beast tide. I'm afraid we can't go back. Commander Chi's expression was extremely solemn. But he said nothing. It was too late to send reinforcements now. It would take at least 3 days for reinforcements to arrive at the Thousand-Leaf Valley. By then, not even their bones would be left. Lu Shuming continued. Commander, there are probably more than 1,200 bandits. The bandit leader, Shirmashwan, has not been killed. I did not complete the mission. Commander Chi's expression was still solemn. Commander, the last sentence is something I want to say to you personally. If there is an afterlife, I will still be your subordinate. Commander Chi's eyes flashed when he heard this. He nodded solemnly. After Lu Shuming finished speaking, he was silent for 2 seconds. Then, he hung up the communication. Then, he condensed a genetic weapon. He charged forward. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky without any warning. He was dressed in black and had a delicate face. A pair of blood-red wings behind him emitted a blood-red glimmer in the rain. Even among the blood-red desolate beasts, he was so eye-catching. This person was none other than Immerse. When the soldiers saw this, they were all shocked. What was Immerse trying to do? The tens of thousands of 7-star ladle mantises instantly became ferocious when they saw Immerse suddenly appear. Squeaking, it swooped down on Immerse. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky. The figure was 800 meters long. Its 800-meter-long body wriggled like a dragon. There were several barbs on its ferocious head. Within the barbs, there were 2 huge bulges, as if something would grow out of them at any time. On the back, there were triangular ridges that looked like sharp triangular blades. Its entire body was covered in black scales. 4 thick claws, each as thick as a giant tree. As soon as it appeared, the long way on its body quickly spread out. The 7-star ladle mantises that were pouncing over immediately retracted their wings. He fell directly from the sky. They flapped their wings with all their might to prevent themselves from falling into the flood below. Instead, they landed on the mountain peaks on both sides of the valley. Then, he hurriedly lowered his head and didn't dare to move. The beast tied in the sky that looked like red rain all landed on the mountain peaks on both sides of the valley. The mountains on both sides looked as if they had been painted red by a huge paintbrush. Those soldiers were originally planning to fight to the death. At this moment, they suddenly saw the surrounding beasts tied land one after another and lie on the ground, not daring to move. They were all stunned. They looked at the sky. When they saw the huge desolate beast, they were all shocked. They looked at this huge mutated desolate beast and actually felt a sense of fear. It wasn't that they hadn't seen powerful mutated desolate beasts before. They had even seen many super mutated desolate beasts. However, this mutated desolate beast gave people a very strange feeling. It was as if it had already been the ruler of the earth in ancient times. It had traveled through tens of millions of years and appeared here. It made people involuntarily want to revere it and worship it. In the sky, the sea dragon clone opened its mouth and let out a dragon roar that seemed to have traveled through tens of millions of years. Roar, roar, in the next moment, thousands of blood-red vines shot out from the sea dragon clone's body. These red vines looked very soft, but they could instantly pierce through the bodies of these 7-star ladle mantises like steel bars. Puff, 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 the sanguisurincus pierced into their bodies and quickly absorbed the sanguisurincus in their bodies. Within a few seconds, the blood in their bodies was completely sucked dry and they turned into mummified corpses. The sea dragon clone retracted the sanguisurincus and shot at another group of 7-star ladle mantises. Every time the sanguisurincus shot out, at least thousands of 7-star ladle mantises turned into mummified corpses. Within a short minute, a large piece of empty land was cleared out on the surrounding hills. And those 7-star ladle mantises, except for trembling out of fear, didn't resist at all. They didn't even have the intention to run away. This made the eyes of the soldiers widen. What was going on? Lu Shuming shifted his gaze from the sea dragon clone to Immerse. What kind of person was this guy? More than 2 months ago, the mutated desolate beast he had summoned was already shocking enough. And now, 2 months later, the mutated desolate beast he had summoned was even more unbelievable. With the power of a wild beast, he intimidated thousands of wild beasts. And all the mutated wild beasts didn't even dare to have the thought of resisting. He had thought highly of him, but now it seemed that he still underestimated him. The potential he showed and the speed of his growth were far beyond his expectations. Previously, he thought that it would take at least 10 or 20 years for him to grow. But now, it seemed that he had grown to the point where even he had to look up to him. Not to mention other things, just this mutated wild beast was beyond his imagination. Previously, he thought that after he grew up, he would be like Han Jiansheng, who could freeze 16 provinces with one sword. Now it seemed that his achievements might far surpass Han Jiansheng. Just as everyone was shocked and surprised, the sea dragon clone kept absorbing the blood of these 7-star ladle mantises. The 7-star ladle mantises fell down in droves. At the same time, the system notifications kept ringing in Immerse's mind. Frowny face. Evolution points gained plus 120,000, evolution points gained plus 150,000, evolution points gained plus 90,000. In the end, the hundreds of thousands of wild beasts were exterminated by the sea dragon clone. A single wild beast had killed hundreds of thousands of wild beasts. In the past, this was simply impossible. But Immerse's sea dragon clone had done it. At this time, the rain finally lessened. The soldiers looked through the rain and saw the dried corpses that covered the mountains. Each and every one of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Chapter 376. All the soldiers were shocked by the power of the sea dragon avatar. At the same time, they were grateful to Immerse for summoning the sea dragon avatar. Although they didn't say anything, they had already made up their minds. This time, all of them owed Immerse their lives. In the future, if Immerse needed anything, as long as he asked, they would do anything. Lu Shuming came forward. There was an uncontrollable excitement on his face as he patted Immerse's shoulder heavily. "Brother, you're really something." A commander, a man in his 90s, and a young man in his 20s calling each other brothers. This was almost impossible. However, in front of Immerse, nothing was impossible. Lu Shuming had always had a good impression of Immerse before. But that was only because of Immerse's extreme talent. This time, it was because Immerse had saved more than 2,000 soldiers. These soldiers were all his brothers. If these brothers died in battle today because of his mistakes, then even if he died, he wouldn't be able to rest in peace. And now, because of Immerse's appearance, his brothers had avoided death in battle. And he himself had avoided the guilt of his brothers dying in battle. "If you need any help in the future, just ask." With this sentence, Immerse could do whatever he wanted in the entire Yuzhou in the future. Immerse didn't stand on ceremony and nodded. Okay. With his personality, he naturally wouldn't stand on ceremony with Lu Shuming. While they were talking, the system's voice suddenly sounded in Immerse's mind. "The total evolution points have reached 1 trillion. The system can be upgraded. Do you want to upgrade immediately?" Hearing this, Immerse was secretly happy. He could finally upgrade again. He said in his heart, "Upgrade. This upgrade will take 12 hours. You can't sign in during the upgrade." Immerse was naturally mentally prepared for this. No longer worrying about the time needed to upgrade, he said to Lu Shuming, "Commander Lu." Before he could finish speaking, Lu Shuming said, "Call me Big Brother." Immerse didn't stand on ceremony. "Big Brother Lu, let's continue to exterminate the bandits." Lu Shuming was in a good mood and nodded. "Of course, just like before." "Snipe." The sniper immediately replied in a loud voice, "Yes, sir." Immerse took out the guiding tool in his hand, and his figure disappeared in a flicker. The sniper quickly raised his sniper rifle. At the same time, in the cave, the psyche masters among the bandits were overjoyed when they found out that the warriors were surrounded. At the same time, they were also the mastermind of the suited bandit leader. Boss is simply a clairvoyant. How did Boss know that there would be a flash flood? How did Boss know that the 1,000-page valley would have so many mutated desolate beasts? I'm convinced, I'm really convinced. Then, they detected the sudden appearance of a level 8 mutated dire beast. With a roar, all the beasts submitted. This made all the bandits extremely shocked. This brat, damn it, why would such a huge mutated dire beast suddenly appear out of nowhere? The bandit leader, Shirmoshwan, frowned slightly as he looked at the large amount of flood water that had already poured into the cave. He had still underestimated that kid. He did not expect that kid to have such a special ability despite his ordinary appearance. First, he could teleport. Then, he could summon mutated dire beasts. If he had known earlier, he would have thought of a way to eliminate that kid first. But now, it was too late to say anything. He could only make use of the complicated terrain in the cave to hide his figure. He would seek revenge on that kid when he made a comeback in the future. Just as he was thinking of this, a figure suddenly appeared behind him without any warning. He suddenly felt a chill in his heart. It was bone-chilling. Almost at the same time as he dodged to the side, he turned around to look. He saw Immerse dressed in black with a delicate face. He was holding a guiding device in his hand and was pointing it at his chest. What the? Shirmoshwan burst out with a rare outburst. At the same time, a wormhole teleportation device appeared in his right hand. However, at this moment, bang, his head had already exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The wormhole teleportation device in his hand fell to the ground with a thud. Immerse walked over and picked up the wormhole teleportation device. He reached out and fiddled with the wormhole teleportation device for a moment. A three-dimensional map appeared on the device. In the center of the map were the coordinates of the teleportation device. Immerse zoomed in on the map and looked at it carefully. A place was shown on the map, Ancient Dragon Nation. Immerse was puzzled. He had never heard of Ancient Dragon Nation before. He had not even heard of it in legends. Obviously, this was a map that Shirmoshwan had made himself. Or maybe it was a place that was directly added to the map. It seemed that he would have to make a trip to Ancient Dragon Nation if he had the chance in the future. After keeping the wormhole teleportation device in his system backpack, Immerse continued to look for his target in the cave. At the same time, outside the cave, when Immerse aimed the guiding device at Shirmoshwan, everyone saw Shirmoshwan's face. The next moment, Shirmoshwan's head exploded into a cloud of blood mist. He's dead. The bandit leader, Shirmoshwan, is dead. Brother Imo, well done. Damn it, that old schemer is finally dead. We can finally have a good night's sleep now. They had long known that the bandit leader was Shirmoshwan. As long as Shirmoshwan was still alive, the bandits would come back again. Now that the bandit leader, Shirmoshwan, was finally dead, they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Lu Shuming also clenched his fists slightly. He had been fighting with Shirmoshwan for many years. Although they had never met, this guy was very slippery. No matter how many times he had suppressed the bandits, he could always escape. And in a very short time, he would gather another group of bandits and cause trouble again. Now that Shirmoshwan was finally dead, one of his worries had been removed. And all the credit should go to Immerse. Now that the bandit leader, Shirmoshwan, was dead, the remaining 1,000 or so bandits were like bees without a king. Immerse first used the dragon wool to kill all the bandits that could be killed. Only 100 or so desolate hunters and bandits were left. Then, he continued to do the same thing and killed all the bandits one by one. At this point, all the bandits in Yuzhou had been wiped out. At this point, the rain had completely stopped. The rays of the sun were like 10,000 sharp arrows, piercing through the clouds and shooting toward the ground. The water level of the flood below had also decreased by a lot. Under the sunlight, the flood began to shimmer and move coquettishly. Lu Shuming ordered, "Start to clean up the corpses of the bandits." Some of the soldiers stayed outside to guard, while the rest began to enter the cave to clean up the corpses. At the same time, Lu Shuming once again called Commander Qi. At the military headquarters in Yuzhou. In the teleportation room. Commander Qi's face was solemn, and his eyes were fixed on the teleportation location. Although he knew that almost none of the soldiers under Lu Shuming's command would be teleported back to do harsh work during a battle. But he still held on to the last glimmer of hope. He hoped that a few of them could live a harsh life for once. Chapter 377. Yuzhou Military Headquarters. Commander Qi was in the teleportation room, his eyes fixed on the teleportation location. Among the people who were suppressing the bandits, more than 200 people were equipped with the wormhole teleportation device. He hoped that these people could teleport back when their lives were in danger. But he also knew that all the soldiers led by Lu Shuming treated their comrades as brothers. They couldn't just watch their comrades die while they used the wormhole teleportation device to survive. The medical soldiers at the scene all had solemn expressions. They all hoped that the teleportation location would light up. They really hoped that the 200 soldiers could be a little selfish and live a harsh life. However, after half an hour, there was no movement at all. And everyone's hearts gradually sank. Because they knew that if there was no movement, it meant that the situation was getting worse. Commander Qi's face was as dark as water. But his heart was always in his throat. At this moment, he was afraid. He was afraid of hearing the ringtone of the multifunctional watch. He was afraid of receiving a call from Lu Shuming. Because according to the convention, the supreme commander of every mission would report the situation one last time before sacrificing himself if he encountered an unavoidable danger. This time, Lu Shuming obviously wouldn't come back alive after encountering the flood and beast tide. Then, before he sacrificed himself, he would definitely make a final report. Whatever he was afraid of, it would happen. Commander Qi was thinking of this when his phone suddenly rang. Knock, 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 knock. This sudden sound caused everyone's heart to clench. Commander Qi looked at the multifunctional watch, which showed Lu Shuming's profile picture. His heart instantly sank. He didn't want to pick up the call. He didn't want to pick up the call. Once he picked it up, it would be Lu Shuming's last farewell. His old subordinate of more than 100 years, his last farewell. Everyone present also fixed their eyes on Commander Qi. But he had to pick up the call eventually. This call was Lu Shuming's last words. If he couldn't pick up the call, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Thinking of this, he finally pressed the button to pick up the call. Looking at the three-dimensional portrait of Lu Shuming projected on the watch, his face was solemn. Shuming, if you have anything to say, just say it. Lu Shuming smiled and said, Chief Commander, we've completed the mission. We wiped out all the bandits and killed the bandit leader, Shirmashuan. Commander Qi, after being stunned for 3 seconds, Commander Qi finally reacted. You guys are out of danger? Lu Shuming nodded. Yes, it's all thanks to Immerse. With that summoned beast of his, we were able to wipe out the entire beast tide. Commander Qi, he was stunned for another 2 seconds, and an unconcealable shock appeared on his face. A single summoned beast could exterminate hundreds of thousands of desolate beasts. What kind of summoned beast was that? Ancient divine beast? Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? However, he did not say these words out loud. He quickly retracted his shocked expression and asked, report the casualties. Lu Shuming said, of the 2,000 soldiers in this operation, 3 were seriously injured, 220 were lightly injured, and the death toll was 0. Towards the end, Lu Shuming raised his voice by an octave. As a veteran warrior who had lived for nearly 100 years, he was not afraid of hardships or death. He was afraid that he would not be able to bring these warriors back to the battlefield. But this time, not a single one of the 2,000 warriors died. In his military career, he had experienced so many fierce battles, but in the end, he had never died. This was the first time. Hearing this, Commander Qi was overjoyed. Exterminating the bandits with 0 deaths and wiping out all the desolate bandits. This is definitely the first time since exterminating the bandits. When you come back, I will give you credit. Yes, Chief. Lu Shuming gave a standard military salute. In the teleportation room, all the officers and military doctors were in a good mood at this time. They thought that not a single one of the 2,000 people would be able to return. They did not expect that not only would they be able to return, but they would also achieve a complete victory. This was definitely a great surprise. Next, the military cleaned up the battlefield and rushed to the military headquarters. That night, the system prompt sounded in Immerse's mind. Frowny face, system upgrade successful. Immerse, who was resting, suddenly shivered and looked at the information in his mind. Upgrade reward, 1,000 wormhole sniper rifle bullets. Upgrade reward, 100 virtual sentry towers. Upgrade reward, virtual dragon palace upgraded to level 3. Immerse checked these rewards one by one. Previously, he had signed in for the wormhole sniper rifle, but there were no bullets. He had originally planned to sign in at the ammunition depot after returning to the military base to see if he could sign in for bullets. He did not expect that the system upgrade this time would directly reward him with 1,000 bullets. If the 100 virtual sentry towers were all set up, they could form a whole. It would allow Immerse to control a larger area. Moreover, the upgraded virtual sentry towers had the ability to attack autonomously. As for the benefits after the upgrade of the virtual dragon palace, there were too many. There was no need to go into detail here. Only the strongest point was that it could resist attacks below the Grand Desolate Master level. Based on this point alone, in the entire 16 prefectures of Yuyun, there were only a handful of forces that could pose a threat to them. After all, even in the entire 16 prefectures of Yuyun, Grand Desolate Masters were rare. Then, the system prompt continued to sound in his mind. Frowny face, this upgrade content. The system backpack has evolved into a miniature world. The upgrade content was very simple. There was only one thing. Immerse was puzzled and asked, miniature world? The system's voice replied. Frowny face, after the system backpack evolved into a miniature world, it maintained its original storage function. Moreover, the owner can bring a certain number of people into this miniature world. In the initial state of the miniature world, a maximum of 10 people can enter. Seeing this, Immerse's heart skipped a beat. However, looking at the soldiers who were resting around him, he did not move in the end. The next afternoon, he returned to the military headquarters. The military held a grand celebration banquet for all the soldiers. At the celebration banquet, the soldiers raised their glasses and toasted to Immerse. Although they did not speak much, their gratitude to Immerse was all in this glass of wine. At the same time, the leaders of the military headquarters also came to toast to Immerse. Immerse did not refuse anyone. The celebration banquet lasted until 12:00 in the evening. Although the soldiers' physiques were far superior to ordinary people, the wine they drank was not ordinary wine. It was a strong wine specially made for cultivators. An ordinary person would probably die from drinking just one sip. The group of warriors were all dead drunk. Immerse was also sent back to his room by a soldier. After the soldier left, Immerse took a recovery potion. He woke up within 5 minutes. His body did not feel uncomfortable at all, as if what he had just drunk was not wine but water. With a thought, he opened the system backpack. At this time, the system backpack was not in the grid shape of the game backpack. Instead, it was a small world. Chapter 378. When Immerse focused his attention on the system backpack, he saw that the system backpack at this time was no longer a flat graphic like the previous game grid. Instead, it was a three-dimensional graphic. There was a bamboo forest, a row of wooden houses, and a small lake. Immerse only felt that it was very novel. He asked the system, "Can I go in?" The system replied, "Yes." Immerse asked, "How do I go in?" The system replied, "Mind." Immerse immediately thought of entering the miniature world. The next moment, his figure had already disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already by the lake. Looking up, the sky was blue. There was no sun, but it was as bright as day. Looking down, the lake water was green. In the lake water, one could also see fish swaying their bodies and slowly swimming by. There were a total of 50 bamboo houses by the lake. Dragon's mind scanned and found that the 50 bamboo houses stored the things that Immerse had stored in the system backpack before. But it was not like ordinary houses, which could not be put any more things after they were full. Every bamboo house here was like a system backpack. As soon as one entered the bamboo house, one would discover that there were a total of 1,000 small compartments in each bamboo house. Each grid could store 100 of the same items on top of each other. In other words, each bamboo house could store 100,000 items. All 50 bamboo houses could store 5 million items. That was very crazy. With this, Immerse felt that he would not need to use his personal storage in the future. The bamboo forest behind the houses was not very large, but there were plenty of animals that should be there. From big wild boars to small crickets, there were all kinds of animals. In Immerse's perception, this miniature world was actually a small ecosphere. There was no problem for a few people to live in such a miniature ecosphere. No wonder the system stipulated that only 10 people could enter in the initial state. More than 10 people would exceed the limit of what this ecosphere could bear. It seemed that living here was pretty good. Immerse scanned the miniature world with Dragon's mind. He found that the area here was not large. At most, it was about 5 square kilometers. Perhaps as the system was upgraded in the future, this miniature world would get bigger and bigger. 2 days later, Immerse returned to Hunting Island number 1. He checked the virtual dragon palace carefully. Be it in terms of attack or defense, the virtual dragon palace was much stronger than before. Not all of them could withstand attacks below the Grand Desolate Master level. Furthermore, it could deal damage to any enemy below the Grand Desolate Master level. With the virtual dragon palace, Immerse could go anywhere he wanted in the future with peace of mind. Currently, the number of combat mechas in the base had reached 600. Currently, the number of mechas in the base was only less than that of the military in Yuzhou. As for the other forces, before the world meeting, they were not worth mentioning at all. In the next few days, Immerse learned some news. The most important news was about this year's Ancient Dragon battlefield. According to the information he received, he only needed a wormhole to enter the Ancient Dragon battlefield. But this year, several forces from the Cloud State had occupied the Ancient Dragon battlefield. Even if they teleported there, they would only be able to move around the periphery of the Ancient Dragon battlefield. They would not be able to enter the central area. Immerse asked Tyrant to learn more about these forces. The 5 forces that occupied the Ancient Dragon battlefield were the top 10 forces in the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud State. Heavenly Gold Sect, Heavenly Wood Sect, Heavenly Water Sect, Heavenly Fire Sect, and Heavenly Earth Sect. The ancestors of these 5 sects were once 5 brothers from the same family. They had founded the 5 sections. And these 5 sects were all ranked in the top 100 of the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud State. Furthermore, the Heavenly Gold Sect and Heavenly Wood Sect were the strongest and second strongest forces in the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud State. One could not help but sigh at how powerful their parents' genes were. And among these forces, there were basically Grand Desolate Masters in charge. It seemed like if he wanted to gain an advantage in the Ancient Dragon battlefield, he would have to raise the Azure Dragon clone to a super mutated dire beast as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Immerse decided to go to the 10th hunting ground to get more Titan dragon blood and raise his strength to that of a Grand Desolate Master as soon as possible. Before he went, he did a detailed understanding of the 10th hunting ground. The virus in the 10th hunting ground was the blood breed virus. More than half of the people in the 10th hunting ground were infected by the blood breed virus. In the 10th hunting ground, after the wardens were infected, they would be called evolved blood breeds. Therefore, the level of the hunters corresponded to the level of the evolved blood breeds. In the 10th hunting ground, the strongest were the level 10 evolved blood breeds. Therefore, for the current Immerse, this was the best place to obtain giant dragon blood. Next, Immerse rested for a few more days. Only then did he bring Emma to the 10th hunting island. Emma was also a blood breed, so she knew more about them. It was naturally the best place to bring her to the 10th hunting ground. The 10th hunting island was similar to all the hunting islands that Immerse had been to before. However, a single ticket here cost 500,000 yuan. Of course, those who could go to the 10th hunting island were basically level 10 hunters. It wouldn't be difficult for such an existence to obtain 500,000 gold coins. In the vast sea, there was an island with a radius of more than 100 square kilometers. It was much smaller than the first hunting island. However, to Immerse's surprise, there were many people who came to the 10th hunting island. It was almost the same as the people on the second hunting island that Immerse had been to before. After landing on the 10th hunting island, he found that there were many people here. Many of them had just arrived on the 10th hunting island and were planning to enter the teleportation hall. Some had already returned from the 10th hunting ground and were resting on the 10th hunting island. There were also some who were here to have fun. Immerse thought for a while and understood. Why were there so few hunters on the continent? It was because many people were stuck at the level of level 10 scavenger. As long as one's talent was not too bad, as long as one worked hard, one could become a level 10 hunter in one's lifetime. However, in order to become a hunter, one needed not only hard work, but also top-notch talent and some luck. Therefore, many people were stuck at level 10 hunters and could not make any progress for the rest of their lives. Therefore, almost all level 10 hunters would come to the 10th hunting ground to train. They hoped to make use of the pressure from the countless blood breeds in the 10th hunting ground to break through and become a hunter. Immerse looked at his number on the electronic screen in the teleportation hall. His number was already over 100. He had to wait for about half an hour before he could be teleported. Immerse, Emma, and her son went to the teleportation hall. There were already more than 200 people waiting in the teleportation hall. Some of these people had just arrived today, while others had just returned from the 10th hunting ground and had just arrived at the 10th hunting ground. There were more than 30 people in the teleportation hall. They were all surrounding a young man in the middle. Chapter 379. The 30-odd people were surrounding a young man in the middle. Immerse also took a second look. This young man was not as bright as a man. Instead, he had the femininity of a woman. His face was more delicate than a woman's, and his lips were more enchanting than a woman's. Every move he made didn't seem masculine at all. This made Immerse think of two words: little fresh meat. Could it be that there were also fangirls in the flaming land who chased after little fresh meat? Zhang Xian swiftly plundered their memories and examined them carefully before coming to a realization. This person was called Ibufan. He was a disciple of the Heavenly Gold sect, the number one force in the 16 prefectures of Serene Cloud. He was also the personal disciple of the Heavenly Gold sect's first elder. Therefore, in the eyes of these people, his status was even more honorable than the sect masters of other forces. While Immerse was observing the little fresh meat was also sizing up Immerse. After sizing up Immerse for a while, he looked at Emma, who was beside Immerse. His gaze moved between Emma and her son, and finally landed on Emma. He looked for a full 5 seconds before retracting his gaze. Immerse frowned slightly. This person's gaze was a little strange. However, no matter who you are, if you dare to provoke me, I can only apologize. Half an hour later, it was finally Immerse's turn to be teleported. Soon, they were teleported to the 10th hunting ground, the Blood Wolf Star. It was currently daytime. The Blood Wolf Star rotated very slowly. A day was equivalent to a month in the Flaming Land. Although vampires aren't as afraid of sunlight as you say, they still feel uncomfortable when the sun shines on them. Therefore, there were fewer blood breeds active during the day than at night. This was also why Immerse had waited until today to come to the 10th hunting ground. Today was the beginning of the day. He glanced to the east. The sun had just broken free from the darkness and was hanging in the eastern sky. In addition to the sun, there was a huge red planet floating in the southern sky. From the naked eye, this huge blood-red planet was thousands of times larger than the sun. It almost took up half of the sky. However, in terms of brightness, it was slightly weaker than the sun. Around the blood-red planet, there was a ring of stars that emitted a crystalline blue light. Although Immerse already had some understanding of this before he came, he was still shocked when he saw this magnificent scene. Just like Immerse, the people who had been teleported here with him were also stunned by this magnificent scene. However, Ibufan from the Sky Gold sect had his eyes fixed on Emma and her son. Emma also noticed that there was something wrong with this person's gaze. She couldn't help but shield her son behind her. She shifted her body and hid behind Immerse. She wasn't afraid of Ibufan of the Celestial Gold sect, but she was afraid of causing trouble for Immerse. Apart from the magnificent view in the sky, the scenery on the ground of the Blood Wolf Star was much more magnificent than that of the Flaming Dawn continent. In the distance were ring-shaped mountains. However, these craters were not craters formed by meteorites. Instead, they were volcanoes. There were probably hundreds of them. These volcanoes were covered in lush vegetation and ancient trees. Closer to them was a plain. A large river meandered across the plain. Following this river, one could reach the city of the natives of the Blood Wolf Star after traveling for more than 500 kilometers. Although the civilization of the Blood Wolf Star hadn't reached the level of civilization on Earth, it wasn't a barbaric era. The people here already knew how to use some technology. It was almost equivalent to the Middle Ages. There were temples and paladins. However, among these paladins, the strongest could only reach the strength of a level 5 hunter. Therefore, any level 10 hunter who came to the Blood Wolf Star could easily crush these paladins. Immerse glanced at the people who had been teleported here with him. They were basically flying along the river towards the city. Firstly, it was their first time here and they had to go to the city to get a better understanding of this planet. Secondly, the natives treated these people like gods. In the city, they ate well and drank well, and they could even do whatever they wanted. Of course, the difference between this and the second hunting ground was that these people wouldn't kill the innocent in the city. After all, the stronger one was, the higher one's vision would be, and the more one would see things from a different perspective. For example, if a child saw a group of ants, he would very likely step on them and burn them with boiling water. However, a normal adult wouldn't pay attention to ants. Of course, this didn't rule out the occasional pervert who specialized in torturing and killing animals. However, Immerse didn't go to the city. He came to this planet this time to improve his strength. He didn't want to interact with too many people. He wasn't such a pure person. After these people left, Immerse strolled around the plain to see if he could meet any blood breeds. It was said that the blood breeds he met during the day were those who couldn't survive among the blood breeds. They could only come out during the day and risk their lives to find food. However, although they were level 10 evolved blood breeds, their strength was weaker than other blood breeds. This was the perfect time for Immerse to obtain the giant dragon blood. After strolling for about half an hour, he looked at the sun in the sky. It was still so high, as if it had never moved. At this moment, Immerse's dragon cognition had already detected a blood breed in the forest on the cliff to the right. Perhaps it had not drunk human blood for too long, but it had just killed a blood fiend and was crazily devouring the blood of this mutated blood fiend. Immerse immediately brought Emma and her son towards this evolved blood breed. After a few minutes, they arrived behind the blood breed. He saw that it was lying on the ground, its hands grabbing the blood fiend and its mouth firmly pressed against the blood fiend's neck. Coo, 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 it was continuously devouring the blood of the blood fiend. It didn't seem to have the elegance that a blood breed should have. She must have been starving. When a blood breed was hungry to a certain extent, elegance and aristocratic temperament were all nonsense. Immerse glanced at the blood breed's level 10 evolved blood breed. It was equivalent to a level 10 scavenger. At this moment, the blood breed had also noticed Immerse's arrival. Its blood-red eyes immediately revealed a thirsty look. It let out an excited cry from its throat. "Yo, fresh human blood!" As it spoke, it leaped towards Immerse. Immerse had already signaled for Emma and her son to move aside. Then, his figure flashed and he appeared behind the blood breed. Just like before, he did not use any energy. He directly engaged in close combat. The sharp claws on his right hand had already condensed, and he slashed towards the blood breed's neck. However, although a level 10 evolved blood breed was equivalent to a level 10 scavenger in terms of level, it was much stronger than a level 10 scavenger in many aspects. Especially its speed. It dodged Immerse's attack in a flash. It let out another roar from its throat. "A mere level 8 scavenger dares to be impudent in front of me?" Chapter 380. The blood breed dodged Immerse's attack and stretched out his right claw towards Immerse's neck. Immerse teleported again and appeared behind the blood breed in an instant. His sharp claws grabbed towards the blood breed again. The blood breed's reaction wasn't slow either. He dodged Immerse's sharp claws again. At the same time, he let out a slightly angry roar from his mouth. A mere level 5 hunter had almost made him suffer twice in a row. How could the arrogant blood breed not be angry? In his anger, his claws grew again, reaching a length of more than a foot. His eyes were blood red as he grabbed towards Immerse. Seeing this, Immerse didn't dodge. He directly used his own sharp claws to block. Crack, 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 a few soft sounds. The blood breed's sharp claws were directly cut off by Immerse's sharp claws. The blood breed's figure quickly retreated, shocked and angry. What surprised him was that this level 5 hunter had actually cut off his own claws. He was angry because this lowly human actually cut off the claws of a noble blood breed. Preposterous. In the violent roar, the blood breed's eyes became more and more blood red. The shoulder blades on his back protruded, piercing through his clothes. Hiss, a pair of devil wings stretched out from his back. At first, it was just a pair of small wings that looked like chicken wings. Then it began to grow bigger and longer. However, how rich was Immerse's combat experience? He wouldn't be like those protagonists in movies, anime, and novels, who would watch their opponents transform. When the pair of devil wings suddenly appeared, Immerse had already flashed again and appeared behind the blood breed. His sharp claws pierced towards the blood breed's back. But at this moment, the pair of devil wings that had just spread out to about a meter suddenly straightened and caught Immerse's hands. And on that pair of wings, there were dozens of sanguisurincus as thick as fingers. They wrapped around Immerse's wrist. The blood breed's head suddenly turned. There was a bit of ruthlessness on his face, mixed with a bit of pride. "Hee, you didn't expect this, did you?" Before he could finish his words, blue and white lightning suddenly flashed between Immerse's hands. Hey, streaks of electricity flowed along Immerse's hands and climbed up the vampire's body. The Blood Clan member trembled from the electric shock. Immerse took the opportunity to push his right hand forward. Poof! His right claw pierced the Blood Clan member's back. The Blood Clan member screamed, but he didn't fall. Instead, he turned his head around 180 degrees. Both of his arms were twisted in reverse. It was equivalent to turning all 4 limbs and head around without even turning around. The situation looked rather frightening. His pair of sharp claws slashed towards Immerse's arms. Immerse wanted to dodge. However, his wrists were once again entangled by the sanguisurincus. For a moment, he was unable to break free. Poof, poof, 2 soft sounds were heard. Immerse's arms were chopped off. Blood immediately gushed out. It sprayed all over the vampire's body and face. When the vampire smelled the blood, he became even more excited. He became ferocious. He stuck out his tongue and licked the blood off his mouth. At this time, his wings were already more than 5 meters wide. He hugged Immerse with both of his hands. "This time, let's see where you can run to." As he spoke, he opened his mouth wide. Hiss, as he opened his mouth actually cracked wider and wider. It cracked all the way to the back of his ears. At the same time, the teeth in his mouth grew longer and longer. Then, he bit down on Immerse fiercely. His mouth was already close to Immerse's neck. The 2 rows of teeth were about to bite Immerse's neck. Even Emma, who was not far away, couldn't help but feel nervous at this time, no matter how blind she believed in Immerse. Hiss, behind her, a pair of blood-red demon wings also spread out. She was about to rush over. But at this moment, just as Immerse's neck was about to be bitten open and the blood in his body was about to be sucked clean. However, the other Immerse had already appeared behind the Blood Clan member. Whoosh, his sharp claws drew a semicircular arc in the air. The vampire's head immediately flew into the air. One could see the vampire's expression of disbelief when his head was in the air. His hands were still holding this human tightly. Why would another human appear behind him? But even if his head was flying in the air, he still didn't die. More than 10 sanguisurincus as thick as fingers poked out from the cut on his neck. They shot out like lightning and flew towards his head. More than 10 sanguisurincus as thick as fingers also shot out from the cut on his head. They shot towards his body like lightning. More than 10 sanguisurincus intersected in the air and quickly merged together. Then, they pulled the head and quickly fell towards the neck. Seeing this, Immerse. He jumped up. He turned half a circle in the air and kicked the head heavily with his right foot. Bang! The head instantly flew thousands of meters away. Crack, 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 many trees were knocked down. Then, it crashed heavily on the cliff behind. It was directly embedded in the cliff. Crack, crack, spider web-like cracks began to appear on the surrounding stone walls. Only then did Immerse land from the air. What was the upside-down golden hook? This was it. Immerse sighed in his heart. If the national football team had such footwork, they wouldn't have been scolded like dogs. Next, without the head, this body was easy to deal with. Immerse waved his claws repeatedly, and this body didn't have any strength to resist. It was directly chopped into meat paste by Immerse. But until now, Immerse's mind didn't receive the notification that he had killed a level 10 evolved vampire. Obviously, this guy hadn't died yet. Immerse had no choice but to go to the vampire's head again. The vampire's head was now embedded in the stone wall. But he wasn't dead. He opened a pair of blood-red eyes and looked at Immerse in horror. "What do you want to do?" Immerse didn't say anything more to him. After robbing his memory, his sharp claws directly pierced through this head. In his mind, a system notification finally came. Killed 1 level 10 evolved vampire. Received 10 points of giant dragon blood. Immerse finally breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that these evolved vampires would only die if their heads were destroyed. Speaking of which, killing this vampire really took a lot of effort. Previously, in the flaming beginning continent, Immerse could easily kill a level 10 hunter without using energy. In the end, killing a level 10 evolved Blood Clan member was actually such a hassle. These level 10 evolved vampires were much stronger than level 10 hunters. It was no wonder that those level 10 hunters wanted to have a breakthrough and came here to gain experience. Only on this Blood Wolf star, facing these powerful evolved vampires, could it be more possible to stimulate their potential and increase their chances of breaking through. Emma, who wasn't far away, saw this situation and retracted her wings. Master's strength had actually reached such a level. If he were to use his energy, the blood breeds would basically be killed in an instant. Chapter 381. In fact, it seemed like Immerse and the other party were evenly matched in this battle. He took 7 points to kill the vampire. But in fact, Immerse firmly held the initiative throughout the entire battle. He didn't give the vampire any chance at all. His so-called great effort was actually an easy victory in the eyes of others. Of course, no one saw Immerse's battle at the moment. If anyone knew that Immerse, a mere level 8 hunter, killed a vampire 2 levels above him, and killed a level 10 evolved vampire without using any energy, they would be shocked. They wouldn't know how to feel. From this vampire's memory, Immerse knew the locations of the other vampires nearby. At the same time, he also knew the locations of some of the weaker vampires that were suitable for Emma to practice on. Immerse made a simple 3D map and marked the locations of the vampires on it. Then, he passed the map to Emma. "Be careful," Immerse said. Emma nodded. "Okay." Then, she took her son and rushed to the location of the first vampire. That Blood Clan member was only at level 4. Although it was a little difficult for Emma to deal with him, with Emma's combat experience, it shouldn't be too dangerous. Moreover, the locations marked on the map that Immerse gave Emma were all within 100 kilometers of the surrounding area. If Emma really encountered any danger, Immerse would be able to rush over in a flash. After Emma left, Immerse rushed to the locations of the other level 9 evolved vampires. In theory, the Blood Wolf planet was basically all level 10 evolved vampires. But it wasn't like there weren't any evolved vampires below level 10. After all, it was impossible for every vampire to start at level 10. They also grew up step by step from level 1 evolved vampires. It was just that their growth cycle was much shorter than that of humans. Basically, a level 1 evolved vampire could grow into a level 10 evolved vampire in a short year. So it felt like this planet was full of level 10 evolved vampires. With Immerse's current strength, it wasn't too difficult to deal with a level 10 evolved vampire. However, it was too much of a waste of time to deal with a level 10 evolved blood tribe. Moreover, the amount of giant dragon blood he could obtain was only slightly more than that of a level 8 evolved blood tribe. Comparatively speaking, it was much easier to hunt level 9 evolved blood breeds at this stage. Not long after, Immerse arrived near a level 9 evolved vampire. It had been a long time since the blood breeds had sucked in fresh blood. The moment he saw Immerse, his eyes lit up. However, this was also a cautious vampire. He didn't pounce on him directly. Instead, he stretched out a pair of demon wings and a pair of sharp claws. Then, he launched a tentative attack on Immerse. However, in front of Immerse's absolute strength, all of this was nothing. Immerse immediately teleported and appeared behind this Blood Clan member. The sharp claws pierced towards his head. Level 9 blood breeds were much slower than level 10 blood breeds. There was no way to dodge this attack. Poof! Immerse's 5 sharp claws pierced through the back of the vampire's head and came out from the front. This level 9 blood breeds died. At the same time, a system notification popped up in Immerse's mind. Frowny face killed a level 9 blood breeds. Obtained 9 drops of giant dragon blood. After killing this level 9 blood breeds, Immerse looked at the sun in the sky. It was still hanging in the east, as if it had never changed its position. Next, Immerse learned the location of the other level 9 blood breeds from the memories of this level 9 blood breeds and hunted them all the way. In the process of hunting these blood breeds, he also encountered many blood breeds with abnormal combat strength. In the entanglement with such blood breeds, Immerse's combat experience and skills were also constantly increasing. In about 20 hours, he had already killed more than 50 blood breeds. Each blood breeds could obtain 9 drops of giant dragon blood. In these 20 hours, he had obtained close to 50,000 drops of giant dragon blood. And as time passed, his speed of killing level 9 blood breeds became faster and faster. According to the time on the Flaming Origin continent, he estimated that he would be able to become a level 9 blood hunter in at most half a month. In fact, he had only used 12 days to become a level 9 blood hunter. Immerse's heart did not waver in the slightest. He continued to hunt blood breeds. But his target had become a level 10 blood breeds. After being promoted to a level 9 hunter, although he still couldn't kill a level 10 evolved vampire without using energy, it was still easy for him to kill a level 10 evolved vampire within 10 moves. And on the Blood Wolf Star, level 10 blood breeds were much more than any other level of blood breeds. So Immerse's speed of obtaining giant dragon blood would be much faster. In another half a month, Immerse had already killed almost all the blood breeds within a radius of 1,000 kilometers. At the same time, Emma had been hunting level 4 to level 5 blood breeds according to the accurate information provided by Immerse. In the past month, she had continuously absorbed the blood of these blood breeds and leveled up by 2 levels. Her next goal was to become a level 6 blood breeds. At the same time, about 200 kilometers away from Immerse, in Tianlin City. Almost all the trainees from the Flaming Origin continent would stop at this city after coming to the Blood Wolf Star. And in the eyes of the natives of the Blood Wolf Star, these people were godlike existences. So this city was called Tianlin City. During this period of time, when the level 10 blood hunters of Tianlin City went to the forests and wilderness outside the city to train, they did not see a single level 9 or level 10 blood breeds. All they saw were the corpses of level 9 and level 10 blood breeds. It was not just 1 or 2 corpses, but countless corpses of blood breeds. In a restaurant, more than a dozen level 10 blood hunters were drinking alone. Damn, this is really F***ed up. I spent 500,000 to train, but I didn't even see a single level 10 blood breeds alive. Yeah, it's really weird. It's not just us. According to other people, they didn't even see a level 10 blood breeds alive. Not even a level 9 one. All we saw were the corpses of these blood breeds. Could it be that there are desolate master experts deliberately causing trouble? What are you thinking? In the eyes of blood hunters, level 10 blood hunters like us are nothing. Why would they come here to play such tricks? While they were talking, there was a commotion downstairs. The people from the Sky Gold sect are here. It's Buffon. It really is Buffon. Following the commotion, there were sounds of footsteps. A few people walked up the stairs. The person in the lead did not have the masculine aura of a man, but he had the feminine beauty of a woman. It was Buffon from the Sky Gold sect. Chapter 382. The level 10 hunters were discussing when they saw Buffon from the Sky Gold sect walk up the stairs. Behind him, there were more than a dozen level 10 scavengers. After Buffon sat down, the dozen or so people opened their mouths to speak. Senior Brother this is really strange. The Sky Gold sect has always been rewarding the good and punishing the evil. It's the publicly recognized number 1 sect in the 16 prefectures of Serene Cloud and the Light of Righteousness. You must uphold justice for us. According to the time in the Flaming Beginning continent, we have been here for 27 days. In another 3 days, the sky will be dark. After dark, the blood breeds will appear in large numbers. It's not suitable for training. We can only go back. The next day, we will spend 500,000 to buy a ticket to enter. Our money wasn't scraped by the gang. That's right, Senior Brother We don't know which mysterious expert killed all the level 9 and level 10 evolved blood breeds. This way, we won't be able to train. Our words don't carry much weight. Even if we meet that mysterious expert, we won't dare to say anything. I'm afraid only Senior Brother and the Sky Gold sect can suppress him. That was indeed the case. In their opinion, someone who could kill so many level 9 and level 10 evolved blood breeds in such a short time without using any energy must be a desolate hunter. How would they dare to argue with a desolate hunter? Only Buffon, who had the backing of the Celestial Gold sect, could go head to head with that desolate hunter. When Buffon heard these people's flattery, he also felt very comfortable in his heart. A feminine smile appeared on his face as he said, "Please don't worry. Don't worry, everyone. The Sky Gold sect has always been kind. Since this matter happened here, and I just so happened to come across it. I naturally won't just stand by and watch everyone come here for nothing. I've already sent people to investigate. I believe there will be results soon." Hearing this, everyone hurriedly expressed their thanks. I've heard that everyone in the Sky Gold sect is kind and charitable. Now that I see it, it's true. Isn't it obvious? Senior Brother E is the personal disciple of the Sky Gold sect's first elder. Not only is he powerful, but his character is also excellent. That's great. With Senior Brother E from the Sky Gold sect, let's wait for the good news. When Ibufan returned to the inn he was staying at, he contacted the few martial brothers he had previously sent out. "Senior Brother Zhang, did you find anything?" The other side responded, "No." "Junior Brother Li, did you find anything?" "No." "Junior Brother Wang, how's the situation on your side?" "I didn't find anything." Hearing this, Ibufan frowned slightly. He was not like the elite disciples of other sects, who would bring a few desolate hunters with them when they went out for training. In his opinion, if he were to bring a powerful elder to train, he would not be able to force out his potential when he encountered danger. Only trash disciples would bring along powerful elders when they came out to gain experience. Therefore, no matter where he went to train, he would at most bring a few peers with similar strength. But this time, it seemed to be a little troublesome. Although he could use his status as a disciple of the Heavenly Gold sect to suppress the mysterious desolate hunter, he could not do so. However, if that mysterious desolate hunter didn't show up, it wouldn't matter how high his status was. Just as he was thinking of a solution, one of his junior brothers replied, "Senior Brother E, I found a person. To be exact, it's 2 people." Ibufan asked, "Are you sure it's them?" That junior brother replied, "It doesn't seem like it. Because she only hunted level 6 evolved blood clan members. She doesn't seem to have anything to do with the mysterious expert who hunted level 9 and level 10 evolved blood clan members. Anne. Oh my god, this woman is." When Ibufan saw that this person was speaking incoherently, he said impatiently, "Send me her video." Soon, the video was sent over. Ibufan opened the video. In the video, a woman with a hot figure was fighting with a blood clan member. From the shape of her face and figure, this was the woman with a boy that he saw in the hall of Hunting Island number 10. But what surprised him was that this woman had a pair of blood-red devil wings on her back. Her eyes were blood-red, and there were 4 sharp teeth in her mouth. Blood clan. He did not expect this woman to be a blood clan member. He looked at this woman and then at the boy who was standing there with a blank face. He was even more puzzled in his heart. This woman was a blood clan member, but she didn't suck the boy's blood? In his opinion, the blood clan was naturally inhumane. Blood was indispensable to the blood clan. Once their blood addiction kicked in, they would not let go even if it was their own son. But this woman was very special. No matter where she went, she always brought this boy with her. Yet, she didn't seem to have the intention to suck the boy's blood. Ibufan continued watching in amazement. At this time, in the video, the woman had already subdued the blood clan member. She then laid on the blood clan member's body and sucked his blood. Ibufan was surprised and said to that junior brother, "Bring that boy back to me." The junior brother asked, "How should we deal with this female blood clan member?" Ibufan said, "Don't pay attention to her for now. We'll take her back to the sect to study after we've dealt with that mysterious expert. This female blood clan member is so peculiar. She should be hiding some unknown secrets." "Understood." That junior brother replied. Ibufan added, "At the same time, don't forget to pay attention to the clues of that mysterious expert. You must find a way to find him." "Yes, Senior Brother E." That junior brother did not defy Ibufan's words at all. At the same time, at the scene, that Sky Gold sect disciple walked out of his hiding place. Looking at the hot figure of Emma, he felt regretful. It was a pity that such a sexy woman was a blood clan member. After Emma sucked the Blood Clan member's blood dry, she turned around. He had a half-smile on his face and said, "What a sexy woman. What a sexy woman. What a pity." He shook his head regretfully. Emma had already used her telekinesis to detect this person's presence. But her opponent was not weak, so she could not afford to be distracted. When she saw the man, she subconsciously leaped to her son's side. The Sky Gold sect disciple smiled and said, "Indeed, beautiful women are not stupid. I'm here for your son." Emma frowned when she heard this. A pair of demon wings that were more than 6 meters wide extended from her back. Her 4 sharp fangs seemed to be even sharper. The Sky Gold sect disciple shook his head. "You're already considered very strong among the level 5 evolved Blood Clan members. But no matter how strong you are, you're still only a level 5 evolved Blood Clan member. You're just a little sister in front of a level 10 scavenger." As he spoke, he stomped on the ground. He instantly jumped forward. Chapter 383. The Sky Gold sect disciple's tone was a little regretful, but also a little cruel. "You may be strong, but unfortunately, in front of absolute power, you're just a little girl." As he spoke, he stomped on the ground with his right foot and instantly attacked Emma. His speed was so fast that Emma could not dodge at all. His strength was so strong that Emma could not dodge at all. Seeing that he was already in front of Emma, the Sky Gold sect disciple's right hand formed a claw and directly grabbed at Emma's chest. However, just as his claw was about to grab Emma, another hand suddenly reached out. It caught his right hand in an instant. He was slightly shocked and hurriedly tried to use all his strength. However, it was too late. Crack, the sound of a withered branch being broken could be heard. His right hand was bent 180 degrees in the opposite direction. Ah, a scream came out of that person's mouth. As he screamed, he felt Immerse's aura. He was just a level 9 hunter. He was inexplicably shocked. How could a mere LV9 hunter have such a strong combat power? This was not scientific. He didn't know that even if Immerse didn't use energy, he could still easily defeat a level 10 hunter. In shock, he turned to look at Immerse. When he saw the undisguised murderous intent in Immerse's eyes, he was suddenly shocked. Although this was only a level 9 hunter, he didn't have any power to fight back. He could feel that if this level 9 hunter really wanted to kill him, he really had no chance of surviving. In shock, his scream turned into a threat. "You can't kill me. I'm a disciple of the Sky Gold sect. Senior brother Buffon of the Sky Gold sect sent me." Bang! Before he finished speaking, a heavy punch had already landed on his head. His head instantly exploded into a cloud of blood. At the same time, the system's voice sounded in Immerse's mind. "Killed level 10 hunter. Received 10 drops of Titan Dragon blood." If someone else saw a level 9 hunter kill a level 10 hunter in seconds without using energy, there would definitely be a huge wave in their heart. However, Emma's heart wasn't stirred at all. To Immerse, killing an opponent who was 2 levels higher than him was not even a warm-up. Naturally, there was nothing to be surprised about. Immerse had already plundered that guy's memories. From that guy's memories, he knew that the guy wasn't after Emma, but Emma's son. Furthermore, he had received instructions from Buffon, the personal disciple of the Sky Gold sect's great elder. As for why Buffon wanted to capture a defenseless boy, that person did not know. It seemed that only by obtaining Buffon's memories in the future would he be able to understand all of this. But no matter what, since he dared to make a move on his people, he had chosen death. But for now, Immerse didn't want to waste time looking for them. He was waiting for that brat to deliver himself to him. According to the information he had obtained from this Sky Gold sect disciple, Buffon was also looking for this mysterious powerhouse, in an attempt to use the power of the Sky Gold sect to make this mysterious powerhouse retreat. Thinking of this, Immerse coldly snorted in his heart. Heavenly Gold sect? Let's give it a try then. Next, Immerse gave Emma a few level 6 Blood Clan locations and asked her to hunt these level 6 Blood Clan members. Then, he destroyed the corpse and continued to hunt the level 10 Blood Clan members. More than 2 hours later, in a luxurious inn in Tianlin God City, Buffon looked at the time. It had been more than 2 hours. Logically speaking, that junior should have brought the boy back long ago. But until now, there had been no news at all. Helplessly, he could only contact that junior. But when he dialed that junior's number, he couldn't reach him no matter how hard he tried. He knew that something was wrong and immediately sent people to look for that junior. But even after 5 hours, there were still no clues. Buffon knew that it was over. That junior was a level 10 hunter. If he encountered a level 10 Blood Clan member, even if he couldn't defeat them, he could still escape. Now that there was no news, it was very likely that he had encountered that mysterious powerhouse. Did that junior not reveal his identity to that mysterious powerhouse? Or did that mysterious powerhouse still kill him even though he knew that he was a disciple of the Sky Gold sect? In the end, he denied the latter. The Sky Gold sect was overseen by a Grand Desolate Master. Even the other major forces and sects on the continent wouldn't easily provoke a force with a Grand Desolate Master. After all, a Grand Desolate Master's combat power was extremely terrifying. If he was really ruthless, even those major forces would have to be wary. It seemed that the junior brother had been killed before he could reveal his identity. Thinking of this, he immediately sent a message to all the nearby disciples of the Sky Gold sect. All disciples of the Sky Gold sect wear the Sky Gold sect uniform. If you encounter the mysterious powerhouse, reveal your identity immediately. When all the disciples of the Sky Gold sect saw this message, they understood the seriousness of the matter. They immediately changed into the Heavenly Gold sect disciples' uniform. They were all dressed in black. On their left chest, there was a small golden word embroidered, Sky Gold. Buffon wanted to remind these disciples. It was because the sky would turn dark in another 50 hours. On the Blood Wolf Star, it was extremely dangerous outside the city after dark. And that mysterious powerhouse might very well return to Tianlin City. But in fact, Immerse didn't plan to go to Tianlin City. He didn't plan to go to any city either. 2 days later, the sun finally sank below the horizon. Night gradually enveloped the land. At this moment, Immerse detected that within a 200-kilometer radius, a small blood tribe had started to appear. This blood tribe wasn't big, with only 50 evolved blood tribe members. Among them, 35 evolved blood tribe members had reached level 10. When Immerse saw this, he was secretly delighted. A group of blood tribe members had finally appeared. He teleported over first and brought Emma along with him. Then, he flew towards the blood tribe. Soon, the blood tribe members discovered Immerse and the rest. More than 50 blood tribe members pounced towards Immerse and the rest. Just like before, Immerse erected a dragon psychic barrier around them. These blood tribe members couldn't break through his barrier at all. Then, he let in 10 blood tribe members. He dealt with the evolved blood tribe members above level 6, while Emma dealt with the evolved blood tribe members below level 6. In less than half a minute, the 10 blood tribe members were killed. Then, Immerse let in another batch of blood tribe members. After killing 2 batches of blood tribe members consecutively, the rest of the blood tribe members realized that this human was not to be trifled with. They started to turn around and flee. Immerse naturally wouldn't give them the chance to escape. Using teleportation, he easily killed them one by one. Chapter 384. It only took Immerse and Emma 5 minutes to easily finish off this vampire. They obtained more than 500 drops of Titan dragon blood. Then, he detected a group of vampires in the forest in the southeast. There were about 80 vampires in this group. Among them, 60 were level 10 evolved vampires. After another 15 minutes, they exterminated this group of vampires. They continued to search for the next vampire. If other hunters who were here for training saw Immerse, a level 9 hunter, being so brutal, they would not know what to think. While Immerse was killing the Blood Clan members, Yizichen and the others were still alive. Most of the trainees in Tianlin City had already left and teleported back to Hunting Island number 10. In their opinion, the Blood Wolf Star's night was not suitable for them to train. However, some of them stayed behind. For example, those from the Sky Gold sect. There were a total of 15 of them this time. They were led by Buffon. Buffon was not a good-for-nothing like those so-called geniuses in novels. He was only one step away from becoming a desolate hunter. Only when faced with an absolutely dangerous situation would he be able to grasp this opportunity. Therefore, not long after the sky darkened, he left Tianlin City with his 13 senior brothers. When they encountered a large group of vampires, they would temporarily avoid them. When they encountered a small group of vampires, they would fight them. The combat power of the 14 of them was not to be underestimated. Even if a real desolate hunter encountered them, he would not be able to take them down in a short time. Therefore, they were able to kill this small group of vampires very quickly. However, what made them feel strange was that, according to their previous intelligence, there were many small groups of vampires in the wilderness at night. However, they had already been out for more than 2 hours and had only encountered 2 small groups of vampires. Could it be that the intelligence was wrong? Just as they were wondering, a psychic master made a discovery. He led these disciples of the Sky Gold sect to a forest. Although it was night time and there was no moonlight, their eyesight was very good. However, their eyesight was far beyond that of ordinary people, and they could see things even at night. At this moment, everyone was very surprised by the scene in front of them. There were about 50 bodies of vampires in the forest. Moreover, most of the Blood Clan members had their heads blown off. After a few experienced disciples investigated the scene, they analyzed some things. Blood breeds below level 6 basically have their heads blown off. The blood breeds of level 6 and below were all killed by the sharp claws, and the angle, depth, and location of the wounds were basically the same. It's very likely that 2 people did it. When the other disciples heard this, they were all shocked. 2 people? Are you sure? There are so many of us, but we still have to be careful when dealing with a group of 20 to 30 vampires. The 2 of them were able to kill so many members of the Blood Clan? And most of them are level 10 blood breeds. Buffon frowned slightly and muttered, if there are really 2 people, then one of them must be the mysterious expert. As he spoke, his gaze fell on the corpses of the Blood Clan members whose heads had been blown off. The others nodded in agreement. Senior brother is right. It must be a mysterious expert. I thought that the mysterious expert would return to Sky's Descent City at night, but it seems like he didn't. Buffon said, everyone, be careful. If you encounter the mysterious expert, identify yourself immediately. The others nodded in agreement. However, they were not as fast as Immerse, and when they tried to use their telekinesis to investigate, they would be blocked by Immerse's dragon consciousness. Naturally, they could not find Immerse's location. After a total of 72 hours, they still did not have any clues. Immerse, on the other hand, had killed many members of the Blood Clan in these 72 hours. To put it simply, in just 72 hours, the number of members of the Blood Clan that he had killed was more than the number of members of the Blood Clan that Bai had killed previously. Finally, after about 240 hours, which was less than 10 Earth days, Immerse had devoured enough members of the Titan Dragon Blood Clan, and his body finally felt like it was about to break through at any time. He couldn't be more familiar with this feeling. He brought Emma and entered his micro-world directly. Although it would only take him 5 minutes to break through. This world was filled with members of the Blood Clan. Although he could still fight while breaking through, he would be distracted after all. Therefore, he chose a safer method. After entering the micro-world, Immerse said to Emma, rest here for a few minutes, I'll break through. Emma was speechless. Listen, is this something a human would say? Rest here for a few minutes, I'll break through. Other people had to die trying to break through. It could be as short as a few days, or as long as a few months or even a few years. You can break through in a few minutes, how are you going to let others live? However, Emma did not dwell on this at this moment. Instead, she curiously sized up this place. There was a lake. There was a bamboo forest. There were dozens of bamboo houses. Blue sky and clear water, birds chirping and flowers blooming. In the words of the Huaxia people, this was a paradise. She thought that Immerse would bring her to hide in the dragon cave. She did not expect to come to this place. What is this place? Why haven't I heard Boss mention it before? She used her telekinesis to explore the surroundings and was quickly attracted by the beautiful scenery here. She could not help but stroke her son's head. If she really could not find a way to cure her son, then living here in seclusion with her son was not a bad ending. She walked slowly on the grass beside the lake with her son. When her son saw the green grass here, he also began to play happily. He kept shouting and running. She followed behind and carefully took care of her son. It seemed that her son also liked this place. Just as she was thinking of this, the door of the bamboo house not far away opened. Immerse walked out slowly. At this moment, Immerse's aura had not yet been restrained. It was obvious that he had just broken through. Emma was a little speechless. He really broke through in a few minutes. If other people knew about this, they would probably drag Immerse away for dissection and research. After breaking through to level 10, Immerse only felt that his whole body was full of power. Now, 80% of the blood in his body had been replaced by dragon blood. He could clearly feel that when he became a desolate hunter, he would be able to truly transform into a dragon. This made him look forward to becoming a desolate hunter. Let's go and hunt vampires again, Immerse said. Emma looked at this place and was slightly reluctant to leave. Immerse also noticed Emma's thoughts and said, "Don't worry, if you like it here, I will bring you here often in the future." Hearing this, Emma quickly thanked him. "Thank you, boss." Chapter 385. Immerse had planned to leave with Emma, but he saw that Emma seemed reluctant to leave this place. He asked, "Do you want to go out and fight monsters to level up, or stay here with your son?" "It's up to you." Emma thought for a while, then replied, "Boss, I'll stay here with my son." Although she did want to become stronger, it was nighttime outside, and powerful blood breeds had appeared in groups. It was really inconvenient for her to bring her son along. Immerse nodded. "Yes, I was too careless. When we go back this time, go to the 5th hunting ground to train. That's the most suitable place for you." "Thank you, boss," Emma quickly said. Immerse shook his head and pointed to the bamboo houses for storage. "There's no danger here, you and your son can stay here without worry. There's a lot of food in these houses, enough for you and your son to use for a month. After a month, we'll go back." "Got it." Immerse left Emma and her son here and left the miniature world. It was still nighttime outside. But at this time, there were 2 half-moons slowly rising in the sky. One of the 2 moons was golden, and the other was blood red. And they were both terrifyingly big. The 2 moons took up half of the sky. Although it was night time, with the 2 bright moons, even an ordinary person could easily see the situation within 100 meters of them. Under the yellow and red moonlight, there were ghostly shadows in the wilderness. In groups of 3 to 5, 4 to 6. Some even gathered in groups of hundreds. Immerse used his dragon's will to investigate, and found that these were all level 10 evolved blood breeds. There was an abandoned village more than 50 kilometers away from him. This was originally a human village, but the people in this city were all infected by the blood breed virus and turned into blood breeds. Although this village was not big, there were more than 1,000 blood breeds. Among them, there were more than 800 level 10 evolved blood breeds. With a single thought, Immerse arrived at the center of the village in a single step. When the surrounding blood breeds saw the sudden appearance of this human, they all pounced on Immerse. Immerse raised his fist. Bang! The head of a level 10 evolved blood clan member instantly exploded. He kicked. Bang! The head of the other level 10 evolved blood clan member also exploded. Now that he had been promoted to a level 10 hunter, Immerse's speed and strength had made great progress compared to before. Against these level 10 evolved blood breeds, it would be an instant kill. Sometimes, he could even wipe out a large group of vampires with a single kick. Under the moonlight, blood and severed limbs splattered everywhere. Not long after, the ground was littered with broken limbs and bodies. Fresh blood had already dyed the ground red. From afar, the ground seemed to be covered with a layer of red carpet. At the same time, Immerse's mind was flooded with messages. Killed a level 10 evolved blood breed. Received 10 drops of Titan dragon blood. Killed a level 10 evolved blood breed. Received 10 drops of Titan dragon blood. Killed a level 7 evolved blood breed. Obtained 7 drops of Titan dragon blood. In just 5 minutes, Immerse had killed over 100 blood breeds. When the blood breeds reached the level of blood breeds, their intelligence was comparable to that of normal humans. They had never seen such a powerful human before. Was he still a human? Although they were extremely thirsty for blood, they had not lost their minds. So when they saw how brutal this human was, they all turned around and fled. However, before they could run 50 meters, they suddenly crashed into an invisible wall. In front of them, there seemed to be nothing, but no matter how hard they tried, they could not break through the invisible barrier in front of them. It turned out that Immerse had already used the dragon's psychic barrier to encircle the surroundings. However, the dragon's psychic barrier in the past was to protect himself. This time, the dragon's psychic barrier was to prevent these blood breeds from escaping. After encircling these 1,000-odd blood breeds, Immerse ordered them to constantly teleport and catch up with these panic-stricken blood breeds. He began to massacre them. In the distance, another small group of blood breeds had just come to seek refuge with this group of blood breeds. After seeing such a brutal scene, each of them widened their eyes. In their eyes, humans had always been weak, insignificant, and lowly. Even those who claimed to be heavenly gods were much stronger than ordinary humans. But in front of the blood breeds, they were just weaklings. It could be said that the blood breeds were almost invincible on this planet, except for another mysterious creature. But now, this human was so brutal. Are you still a human? Helpless, this small group of blood breeds could only silently retreat. However, when they turned around to escape, they realized that they could no longer escape. It turned out that Immerse had already discovered them and had once again formed the dragon's psychic barrier around them. As a result, Immerse continued to kill vampires and expand the area he could kill. Thus, within the range of his dragon's psychic barrier, the blood breeds became a forbidden zone of death. And this forbidden zone of death continued to expand. In the beginning, the radius was only 1,000 meters. Then, it expanded to 2,000 meters, 5,000 meters, and 10,000 meters. After more than 20 hours, this forbidden zone of death had already reached 100 kilometers. The entire forbidden zone of death was filled with the smell of blood. And this smell of blood was carried by the wind, attracting even more blood breeds. After these blood breeds were killed by Immerse, more and more blood breeds were attracted. This formed a terrifying cycle of death. Slowly, in this forbidden zone of death, more and more blood breeds died. This place slowly condensed into a cloud of blood mist. The range of the blood mist continued to expand. After another 5 hours, the range of the blood mist had already shrouded a radius of 100 kilometers. At the same time, Ibufan and his 13 senior and junior brothers were resting on top of a mountain after killing another wave of blood breeds. Other than 2 who were on guard, the rest of them were either eating dry food or drinking water. Gulp, gulp, after a disciple gulped down a few mouthfuls of water, he panted a few times and said, I've long heard that the nights on the Blood Wolf planet are not easy, and it's true. Another disciple stuffed some dry food into his mouth and said vaguely, it's not just not easy. This isn't just bad, this isn't hell mode at all. Fortunately, we were well prepared. Otherwise, I'm afraid that even if we didn't die, we'd be injured. Senior E, when can we go back? There are too many level 10 evolved blood breeds here, we can't handle it. E. Buffon shook his head. Since we came out to train, wouldn't it be too cowardly to retreat from such a small danger? Hearing this, the rest of the fellow disciples shook their heads secretly. Although everyone had some complaints about E. Buffon's actions in their hearts. But on the surface, no one said anything. Chapter 386. The disciples of the Heavenly Gold sect were slightly unhappy with E. Buffon. But no one said anything. Firstly, they didn't dare to. He was the personal disciple of the Grand Elder. They couldn't afford to offend him. Secondly, E. Buffon was ruthless to others and even more ruthless to himself. So even if they wanted to say something, they couldn't say it. But at this moment, a level 10 psychic master suddenly said, Senior Brother E, there's a blood fog in the west. It's spreading towards us. Everyone was slightly taken aback when they heard this. According to the previous information, there wasn't any blood fog here. E. Buffon did not panic. Instead, he asked, is this blood fog poisonous? The psychic master checked for a moment and said, no, it's poisonous. It's just a blood fog formed from the thick smell of blood. E. Buffon said, try to expand the range of your detection. The psychic master shook his head. I've already tried to check, but there seems to be an even stronger psychic master blocking my detection. I can only detect a blurry area in the center of the blood fog. But I found that many blood breeds entered there and never came out. E. Buffon stroked a strand of hair in front of his chest and pondered for a moment. He said, let's go and take a look. Everyone, this was too careless. They had to go and take a look before they could figure out the situation inside. If there were any powerful creatures inside, wouldn't they be courting death? But they also understood E. Buffon's thoughts. These people were basically level 10 psychic masters or level 10 hunters. They desperately wanted to break through. They were only one opportunity away from breaking through. If there wasn't any danger inside, it would naturally be good. But if there was danger inside, it might be an opportunity for them to break through. As long as they grasped this opportunity, there would be a breakthrough in minutes. Although there was only a small difference between a level 10 hunter and a level 1 hunter, there was still a huge gap between them. But in terms of realms, they were two completely different realms. Before breaking through, even the most powerful level 10 hunters could only barely be considered strong. And only after becoming a level 1 hunter could one be considered a true expert of the Flaming Origin continent. Thinking of this, these people did not have any complaints. With the Great Psyche Master scouting ahead, the rest of them protected the Great Psyche Master in the center. Then, they cautiously looked around as they entered the blood-red fog. At first, there was nothing special about the mist other than the thick smell of blood. But after walking for more than 20 kilometers, they found a village. They all walked towards the village. Only when they got closer did they discover that there were almost 2,000 corpses lying haphazardly in the village. Furthermore, these corpses clearly didn't belong to humans, but to vampires. After a careful examination by a junior brother, they discovered that most of the corpses were level 10 evolved blood breeds. Furthermore, all of the vampires had their heads blown off in a single blow, and no energy had been used. Furthermore, all the members of the Blood Clan were killed by the same person. Hearing this report, almost everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Hiss, 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 this is that mysterious expert? This is too powerful. Previously, during the day, we thought that the reason he dared to roam the wilderness was because there were fewer vampires during the day. At night, he would return to the city. Now, it seems that we are too inexperienced. To be able to kill so many evolved vampires single-handedly in the wilderness, I'm afraid this person's ability is not a simple level 1 desolate hunter. He is a level 9 or even level 10 desolate hunter. You're right. Only those who have reached that level of strength can come and go as they please among so many evolved vampires. But why would such a powerful existence come to the 10th hunting ground? With his ability, coming here is just a waste of time. Buffon pondered for a long time, frowned slightly, and reminded everyone. In short, if you meet this person, don't provoke him. But we don't have to be too scared. Although he's strong, we're not the only ones here. Behind us are the entire Skygold sect, Skywood sect, Skyfire sect, Skywater sect, and Skyearth sect. No matter how strong he is, we don't have to be afraid of him. Only then did everyone react. They all nodded. That's right. In the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud, no one dares to provoke the Skygold sect. Not just the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud, but even in the entire continent, the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud are ranked highly. How can he fight us head-on? With that said, everyone was temporarily relieved. They continued to search deeper. The deeper they went, the more broken limbs and body parts they saw. The deeper they went, the more damp the ground became. However, this dampness was not due to the dew, but because the grass had long been dyed red by blood. Amidst their exclamations, they walked for another 50 kilometers. Finally, someone used the night vision device to discover something. Senior Brother E, look. Everyone immediately looked at the monitor. On the green screen, a man was surrounded by hundreds of vampires. No, to be exact, he was chasing after the hundreds of vampires. One punch for a child, one kick for a child. One kick for a child. In no time, he killed almost half of the vampires. At this moment, he had no intention of stopping. He continued to kill the vampires. This was the first time the Skygold sect disciples saw this person. However, he was too far away and there was a blood mist. Their night vision goggles weren't able to see very clearly. They could only see the outline of a vampire's. Let's go and take a look. Buffon said. The rest hesitated for a moment, but could only follow Buffon and walk forward. Immerse had already used his dragon consciousness to detect people slowly approaching. However, there was a level 10 psychic master among them. This psychic master had been using his psychic power to envelop this group of people. Immerse wanted to use his dragon consciousness to investigate, but could only vaguely detect the outlines of these people. He could not see their faces clearly at all. However, Immerse had no intention of hiding. He continued to kill the evolved vampires. Soon, those people were only 10 kilometers away from Immerse. Immerse purposely opened the barrier to allow them to enter unobstructed. At this moment, Buffon raised his hand and cupped his fist. He said loudly, Buffon, the personal disciple of the Skygold sect's great elder, has something to say to you. Would you do me the honor? However, Immerse ignored him. He continued to kill the evolved vampires. Chapter 387. When Immerse heard that they were disciples of the Skygold sect, he ignored them. However, he snorted in his heart. He was waiting for them. Buffon of the Skygold sect. Immerse did not have a good impression of him from the first time he met him. Later on, he even wanted to kidnap Emma's son. When he had this thought, he had already decided his fate, death. However, Immerse did not want to waste time looking for him. He also knew that this guy would find him sooner or later. Therefore, part of the reason he made such a big commotion was to lure these guys over. Seeing that Immerse did not respond, Buffon of the Skygold sect spoke again in a clear voice. We saw that you were hunting the Blood clan here and were very curious, so we wanted to come over and have a chat with you. My 11 seniors and I are rushing over slowly. Please don't misunderstand. Immerse still didn't pay any attention to him and continued to hunt the vampires. According to his estimation, with his current speed, even if he didn't become a desolate hunter in a month, he would be able to do so. Hence, he had to make the best use of his time to hunt the Blood Clan. Soon, Ibufan and the others were only 10 meters away from Immerse. It was only then that they saw Immerse's appearance clearly. When they saw Immerse's appearance, they were all stunned. It's him. It's him. How is this possible? This doesn't make sense. Ibufan was also stunned. He had seen this person in the hall of Hunting Island number 10. According to the information he had received, this person was only a level 8 desolate hunter. Now, when he was hunting the Blood Clan on Hunting Island, his aura was that of a level 10 desolate hunter. However, even if he was a level 10 desolate hunter, the combat power that he displayed was too strong. However, Ibufan was a disciple of a large sect and had seen it before. Although he was very surprised in his heart, he quickly concealed this surprise very well. After all, his master had once said that those who achieved great things would remain calm even if a mountain collapsed in front of them. Furthermore, he had sent people to capture this person and the child that the woman had brought. He could not let this person know about this. If he knew about this, it would be difficult to solve many problems in the future. On the surface, he looked even more calm. He then said to Immerse, "Since you are so powerful, why are you wasting your time in the 10th hunting ground?" Immerse smashed the head of a level 10 evolved Blood Clan with a punch, and conveniently snatched Ibufan's memories. When these people saw Immerse's strength, their hearts jumped. This power was simply inhuman. When Ibufan saw Immerse explode the head of a level 10 evolved vampire with a single punch, his heart couldn't help but skip a beat. This person's physical strength alone was already so terrifying. It was truly a rare sight. However, with the backing of the Heavenly Gold sect, his expression remained unchanged. He continued to speak to Immerse. "Sir, you killed too many blood breeds during the day, so much so that everyone who came to train this time returned empty-handed. I wonder why?" Immerse was currently flipping through Ibufan's memories. He finally understood why Ibufan wanted to capture Emma's son. Although Ibufan was an orthodox disciple of the Heavenly Gold sect on the surface, he was actually secretly cultivating an evil technique. If he succeeded in cultivating this evil technique, his strength would increase to infinitely close to the Grand Desolate Master realm. However, this evil technique required the flesh and blood of a child who had never cultivated it. In the Flaming Dawn continent, there were very few people who had never cultivated it. Therefore, when he saw Emma's son, he revealed such a lustful gaze. When Ibufan saw that Immerse didn't respond, he guessed that Immerse must be wary of his background, so he didn't dare to make a move for now. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the name Heavenly Gold sect was indeed useful. Even a monster like this guy in front of him would have to think twice when he heard the name Heavenly Gold sect. When he thought of this, his tone became much harsher. "Sir, you are indeed powerful. However, with such power, why are you harming others without benefiting yourself instead of doing something that benefits the people?" When Immerse heard this, he snorted coldly. "You are upholding justice on the surface, but secretly catching children to cultivate your evil technique. Is this beneficial to the people? You speak of benevolence, righteousness, and morality, but you are full of thieves and prostitutes. You have the cheek to point fingers here?" When he said this, Ibufan was shocked. No one knew that he had secretly cultivated an evil technique other than himself and his master. How did this guy know? Then, he glanced at his senior and junior brothers. Sure enough, the way they looked at him was a little strange. When he turned back and looked at Immerse, his eyes were filled with killing intent. Although he didn't know how this kid knew, since he already knew, he had to get rid of him. When he thought of this, he snorted coldly. "Nonsense. Fellow disciples, since this person is so arrogant and incurable, we don't need to be entangled with him anymore. Let him live and die on his own." With that, he waved his hand and turned to leave. The others also left one after another. However, just as he turned around, he suddenly turned back. He threw a grenade-shaped object in his hand at Immerse. Originally, with the speed of this object, Immerse could easily dodge it. However, there was a wormhole teleportation device on this object. Just as he threw it, it disappeared. The next moment, it appeared beside Immerse. Boom! Fiery light appeared and instantly filled the space between heaven and earth. The loud roar continuously bombarded everyone's eardrums. Violent shock waves spread out in all directions. All the Heavenly Gold sect disciples activated their energy shields immediately. Even so, their bodies were still blasted forward by the shock wave. He flew for several hundred meters before coming to a stop. Everyone's energy shields had been shattered, and the clothes on their backs had disappeared. This showed how powerful the shock waves were. Seeing this, Ibufan finally heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that this guy was very strong. If he could kill a level 10 evolved blood clan member with his bare hands, how could he be weak? However, this guy knew his secret, so he had to destroy him. Hence, he used the strongest trump card his master had given him, the wormhole bomb. The wormhole bomb was an extremely rare weapon in the Flaming Origin continent. Anyone below the level of a Grand Desolate Master would be blown to pieces if they were hit. This was the strongest trump card his master had given him when he left the sect. Although it was a bit of a waste to use it on this kid, as long as he could kill him, everything would be worth it. Thinking of this, he sneered in his heart. From the moment you decided to become enemies with me, Ibufan, your fate has already been decided. When the strong light and the roar disappeared, he turned to look at where Immerse was. Chapter 388. When the bright light disappeared, the rumbling stopped. Ibufan looked at the place where Immerse had been standing. Although he knew that this kid would be blasted to pieces by the micro-wormhole explosive bomb, he couldn't see anything. But after the explosion, people would always subconsciously look at the explosion point. However, with that one glance, he was like the 7 fairies who had been immobilized. He stood there in a daze. Other than the shock and fear in his eyes, he couldn't move at all. When the rest of the Heavenly Gold sect disciples saw the explosion point, they were also immobilized, just like Ibufan. He saw that the kid was standing there, untouched, at the explosion point. There was no difference from before the explosion. Even his posture didn't change. They were still some distance away from the explosion point, and they had even condensed an energy shield. After the explosion, the clothes on their backs were torn apart by the powerful energy. This kid was at the explosion point, but not only was he not injured, even his clothes were not damaged at all. It had to be known that even if it was a Grand Desolate Master, after enduring such a violent explosion, it was impossible for his clothes to remain undamaged. This was completely beyond the scope of their understanding. Just as they were in shock, Immerse took a step forward. His figure disappeared. Everyone was shocked again. When Immerse appeared again, he was already in front of Ibufan. Seeing this, Ibufan condensed an energy shield again and shouted in horror, "No, you can't kill me, I'm a Heavenly Gold." Bang! Before he could finish, his head was smashed into the ground by Immerse. Seeing this, the rest of the people turned pale. In their eyes, Ibufan had always been high and mighty. They had to be careful when they spoke in front of Ibufan. But now, Ibufan's head was directly smashed into the ground by this guy. The surrounding soil was stained with blood from the explosion of the head. At the same time, a system notification sounded in Immerse's mind. Frowny face killed a level 10 scavenger with bare hands. Obtained 10 drops of Titan dragon blood. Seeing how brutal this guy was, the rest of the people didn't dare to stay any longer. They could only turn around and escape. However, in front of Immerse, could they escape? Immerse kept teleporting. Every time he teleported, a guy's head would explode. And in his mind, there would be a notification. Speaking of which, killing these fellows was even easier than killing level 10 evolved blood breeds. After all, human level 10 hunters were much weaker than level 10 evolved vampires. In less than 15 seconds, Immerse had killed all the Heavenly Gold sect disciples. Furthermore, all of them were insta-killed with bare hands. It could be seen how strong his combat strength was now. After killing all the disciples of the Heavenly Gold sect, Immerse wanted to get some good stuff from them. However, to his disappointment, these people did not have anything good on them other than an explosive bomb. However, the explosive bullets had already been used. Sigh, what bad luck. Immerse sighed and shook his head. Actually, it wasn't that these people didn't have anything good on them. It was just that Immerse's standards were now much higher, and ordinary good things could not catch his eye. He used a fire to burn these people's corpses. Immerse continued to kill the blood breeds as if nothing had happened. Gradually, as time passed, Immerse had killed almost all the blood breeds within a 1,000-kilometer radius. At the same time, in Tianlin City, the city lord was standing on the city wall. He held a giant sword in his hand and was wearing armor. On the city wall beside him, there were more than 100,000 soldiers. They were all staring into the darkness in the distance. Everyone's nerves were tense. Every time night fell, there would be evolved blood breeds trying to invade the human city. They could only barely defend Tianlin City by relying on the terrain advantage and many powerful weapons. However, this time was very strange. When night fell, not a single blood breed could be seen. More than 10 hours ago, he had already sent people out to scout. However, there was no reply until now. This gave him a bad premonition. Not only him, but everyone else was frowning. The expected situation did not happen. Instead, it was this strange situation that made them feel uneasy. Could this be the legendary calm before the storm? Another half an hour later, several figures finally appeared in the distance. Everyone's heart tightened. However, they soon realized that these figures were not blood breeds, but spies they had sent out. The soldiers quickly welcomed the spies in. How is it? What's the situation? Where did those blood breeds go? The city lord saw that the spies were panting and sweating profusely. He ordered, "Bring water." Immediately, someone brought over a few cups of water. The city lord personally handed them to the spies. The spies did not stand on ceremony. They took the cups and gulped down the water. Only then did they speak. No blood breeds. There was not a single blood breed within 100-kilometer radius. There were only blood breed corpses. Tens of thousands of blood breed corpses. All the blood breeds have been killed. Hearing this, all the soldiers looked at the spies in disbelief. All the spies nodded their heads in agreement. Yes, after we went out, we only saw piles and piles of blood breed corpses. All the blood breeds were killed in one hit. It seems that some powerful creature killed all the blood breeds. We were still worried, so we walked hundreds of kilometers away. However, we didn't see a single blood breed within hundreds of kilometers. Hearing this, the soldiers were both surprised and delighted. In the past, every night when the blood breeds attacked, they would suffer heavy losses. But this time, some kind of powerful creature had appeared and killed all of the blood breeds. Then, they could avoid death and injury on this night. This was the first time in hundreds of years. However, among these people, there was one person who did not have a trace of joy on his face. That person was the city lord. When he heard that all the blood breeds had been killed, his heart skipped a beat. Oh no, was the werewolves going to appear? In legends, the werewolves and the blood breeds were sworn enemies. However, the werewolves rarely appeared. They only appeared once every 100 years. Every time the werewolves appeared, they would start a racial war with the blood breeds. Humans often became the cannon fodder between these two powerful races. As long as the werewolves and the blood breeds started a large-scale war, the ones who would be injured in the end would definitely be humans. In history, there were several wars between the werewolves and the blood breeds that almost wiped out humans. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.